Board of Trustees, Venus Independent School District, March 20th, 2023 at 7 o'clock. And we have a quorum present. If everybody please stand. Joe, would you lead us in the invocation and followed up by the pledge led by Kirby?
Gracious Heavenly Father, we come into your presence tonight, Lord, with thankful hearts. We're just, Lord, thankful for that we have the opportunity to serve you and serve this community. Lord, we ask for your guidance tonight as we discuss things and make decisions for these kids and for this community. Lord, we just thank you for the blessings you send our way. Lord, we ask you to forgive us when we failed you. In Christ's name I ask. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Again, welcome everybody. We're going to go to start off here at item number 4. Presentation of ballots for Education Service Center, Region 11, Board of Directors, April 5th, 2023 election. Do we, oh. I didn't open it up.
Just pass these out, they fill them out and I pick them back up.
As Elizabeth just mentioned, we'll pass those ballots are individualized, and so basically there are 2 spots that are open, and one of them is unopposed. That's Mr. Rod Townsend, and the other one is Dr. Elaine Edmonds and Dr. Jay Thompson running for the other seat, and you see their biographies there. And Liz, you'll just take those up and send them? Okay.
All right, we're going to go to item number 5, presentation of campus reports and recognitions. Who wants to start? Oh, there we go. Ms. Ortiz.
The primary. We're going early first. All right. Absolutely. We're going to start with our Teacher of the Month. Miss Angela Trammell is a kindergarten team lead, and she has stepped into this role this year and has just done an absolutely fantastic job, been a great role model for the team, and really has stepped up in the expectations for that group. So it's been kind of exciting this year. And then for our of the month, our staff member is Mr. Andrew Centino. He is our paraprofessional of special education. Fantastic. He came to our campus this year from the elementary, and we are so grateful to have him. He goes above and beyond for all our students, never complains, and steps in when is needed, and super flexible. And then our student of the month is little Aiden in Miss Rodriguez's kindergarten classroom. This is one of those students who brings a smile to your face just because of the progress that they've made from the beginning of the year to now. And so just seeing his growth as a student and as a person, we're super proud of him. All right, so kindergarten, we ended last week with a field trip to Crayola experience, and that was a fantastic trip. And we are getting ready for pre-K to head to the Waco Zoo. In our first grade group is going to Cowboy Stadium, and then we're prepping for music programs and graduations. And then, as you see, our fantastic fire department visited us, and I know I spoke of that. And then we ended in spring, or before spring break, one of our days we celebrated with a pajama day because we had a 98% attendance rate for the month of February, which for 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds is absolutely fantastic. So I'm so proud of our students and our parents for collaborating with us. So we did a pajama day and we had flashlights, and so the kids got to read all day and it was super fun. This month, if we can maintain a 92% or higher, we're going to have a cotton candy party. So we're hoping our students keep coming to school. That's what we want.
Okay, moving right along to the elementary. Our teacher of the month was Michelle Griffin. She's a 4th grade teacher. She's been with Venus for several years. Michelle can be seen all around the district. She works at our community library. She also is a bus monitor, so our kids see her everywhere. And one of the people that nominated her said she's a pillar in our district because she wears many hats. She loves Venus. She is always bragging about our staff and our kids and our families, and she loves every part of every job that she does. She always has a smile on her face, and she truly knows what each of her students needs to move forward academically. Our staff member of the month was Debbie Fruit, and she is our school secretary. She can always be seen up front with a smile on her face. Even when there are party days or something going on, she is always smiling and working very hard to make sure she follows all of our security measures. I hear her all the time asking, "Can I see your ID in the camera?" And they comply. And she was so excited to get our safety audit done and get we had 0 mistakes in our safety audit, so she was super proud of that and the hard work that they've done. She even helps check doors. She wants to make sure everybody is safe. And our student of the month is Bryson, and he is a 2nd grader in Miss Williams' room. And Bryson left early for spring break, so Bryson does not know that he is made student of the month yet. So if any of y'all know him, don't tell him yet, because he'll find out tomorrow. But he is in Williams Mosley, and he is a wonderful student, always respectful, follows the rules, inside and outside the classroom. He is a great friend to all students, and just a really hard worker and an excellent example of a VES Bulldog. One second. I also included, I know that I think y'all have heard a little bit about this, but we did get chosen by Max Dugan for his $5,000 donation from Haltom Jewelers through the Heisman Trophy. But he was nominated to designate that money to go to American Heart Association for someone else. He has the same heart condition that Eli Bartosh, a 2nd grader on our campus, and so that really tugged on his heartstrings. And Eli is super excited. They contacted his mom, who's also an employee at our campus, and that money went on top of his donation, so it made our total donation from our students to the American Heart Association a little over $9,000. We were waiting to see if Max Dugan was going to be able to come to Venus Elementary and get a picture with the check, but the word is he's already in California training for the NFL draft, so unfortunately he's not going to be able to make it, but students are still super excited. And we've had our book fair. We had open house, which there'll be more information about that next month.
All right, to the middle school. All right, so our teacher of the month this month was Miss McCormick. Miss McCormick is a 7th grade language arts teacher. She's a 1st-year teacher, and she is amazing. She is so amazing that she is one of our example classrooms for the Blended Learning Grant. So when we have other schools come and observe, her classroom is one of the classrooms that they go to. And? Yes, you can add. Okay. Miss Ortiz, student of the month, was her son. So they got student of the month and teacher of the month in the same month. It was exciting. Our support staff of the month was Miss John Ann Grubbs. I don't know what to say about her except she's fabulous. She supplies y'all's desserts for every board meeting. She always has a smile on her face, willing to do anything and everything to make our campus as great as it could possibly be. And we would not make it without her. Our student of the month was a 6th grade this month, and it's Everett Miller. I don't even know what to say about Everett. He's fabulous. He is one of those kids, when he got his reading scores and they were outstanding, the first thing he said was, how can I make them better? So he is that kid that always is willing to put in more time to be better than he was yesterday. So they said that Everett Miller is a great example to others of what a Bulldog's best should look like. And so we were super proud of him. Things going on at the middle school. We just finished in February our TSA regional competition. We had 89 students compete in 32 different events, and 42 of those teams will advance to the next level. So not 42 kids, but 42 teams. 32 students teams were in first place, 19 in second place, 12 in third place, and so on. So we were very, very excited about those results. 8th graders went to the Holocaust Museum. We do that every year. They have a cross-curricular unit that culminates into a visit at the Holocaust Museum. So we just completed that the Thursday and Friday before spring break. UIL, our choir has a UIL competition, band has UIL competition coming. And then Miss Bodie is working, our art teacher is working with the city. And her and I believe the elementary the high school art teacher. Or the elementary, I don't know which other art teacher. Another art teacher, along with kids, are going to be painting the fence at Shannon Park. And so they are going to do a life cycle of a butterfly on that very large fence with the kids. So that's super exciting for to have some community relations. So. Your turn.
Venus High School. It's a great day to be a Bulldog. So we're going to start off with our Teacher of the Month. And it is Yvette Rodriguez. She's a great co-worker who has done an amazing job of organizing not only the Spanish department, but she's taken charge of the senior prom along with senior week activities, and it's a lot. I found out quickly how much is entailed there. She is a mentor. She's been instrumental this year for our new Spanish teachers, for them having a smooth transitional year. And on top of all that, she is pursuing her master's in counseling. So she is a excellent asset to not only us as far as the administration, but also to her coworkers and to the students. Staff member of the month is our office secretary, Ms. LaPointe. Mrs. LaPointe keeps the office and the school running smoothly from day to day, and it's always with a smile on her face. She helps coordinate the transition between what goes on in that front office with the teachers. And this does include getting the classes covered on a daily basis. So we appreciate her, and she's also the gatekeeper to the calendar. Student of the month, Princess Morales. She's the ultimate example of what it is to be a captain. She not only directs traffic on the soccer field, but she also takes charge in the classroom. She is frequently willing to get out of her comfort zone and take a chance, which makes her pretty successful. Princess recently assisted in the Special Olympics, and her leadership qualities were incredible to watch. Our spotlight, on March the 8th, we had our girls regional powerlifting meet. They traveled to Dublin, and we had 5 young ladies that pretty well made a name for themselves. Mackenzie Rodriguez qualified for regionals, and she was in Frisco this past weekend, and she did pretty good. It's always amazing to me to see a 97-pound person be able to bench press more than their body weight. I don't know how that works, but she's a bulldog, so she had fun with it. In Dr. Morgan's engineering class, students were charged with building a catapult that would have a balance and launch a tennis ball. And this kind of project-based instruction ensures that those students are not only learning what it takes to be in the engineering field, but it also has them engaged 100% of the time. I went out there to watch the catapulting of the tennis ball, and they had a friendly competition to see which tennis ball would launch the furthest, and I learned a lot while I was out there. Not only did I learn a lot, I quickly became engaged as myself. I wanted to give some advice as we went through, but that's a great addition to the staff. In the forensics class, Ms. Rivas' classes were solving a murder using only circumstantial evidence. They combed the crime scene and had to use biological evidence, and they scanned for genetic traits and had to narrow down the suspects to eventually finding out who the killer was. And the last thing is our RBL site visit. And we've heard about RBL. It's the Charles Butt Foundation. We had Arlington ISD along with Louisville ISD attend our blended learning showcase. They were delighted to see how much blended learning has taken off in not only the high school, but in the middle school as well. They visited classrooms, heard from district leaders, and they participated in a panel discussion. What I and Ms. Buck are most proud of is that they have asked to come back for a second showcase. So on April the 11th, they will be back out. So they had a lot of questions and kind of liked what they saw. So we are more than glad to have them back out. It says a lot, not only for the leadership that Warren and Ms. Hill has provided us, but also the reaction, how well the teachers have responded and executed the blended learning.
Mr. C, we're also, excuse me, the Key Club, I think, is also hosting again the Meet the Candidates this year. Is that right? I believe it, and I think it's on the 20th. It's actually the city of Venus that asked us
Yes.
to initiate that. So we don't have any, while we don't have any school board, the city election, which is, anyway, they'll be hosting it for that. So that'll be fun.
Okay. Going to item number 6, presentation of FFA program. And yeah, you just go right there and you just press that little button to the right. There you go.
You guys want to
that work?
introduce yourselves too?
Do what?
Would you introduce yourselves, please?
My name is Bo Harris. I teach one of the welding classes. Jim Bob wasn't able to make it with us. He had to go to a scholarship dinner for our county to represent Venus, so he wasn't able to make it to this. But
I'm Megan Gibson. I teach all of the animal science classes at Venus.
And I am Autumn Rumpf, and I'm the one at the middle school right now. So I currently have wildlife and principles of ag.
Oh, I'm gonna kick. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna kickstart it, I guess. Really, kind of what we wanted this to be. We want to give you a little snippet of what we do and what we offer within the program, but we also want to kind of open the floor for questions you might have about our program, because we offer a lot that isn't always known, but is there. So currently, that illustration right there, it's what we call the 3-circle model. It's what most every single ag class in the nation uses to teach our classes. We believe that it needs to be a healthy, what's it called? Combination, thank you, of classroom instruction, SAE projects, which could be anything from research projects to jobs students might have or show animals, and then the FFA portion would be like contests and CDEs and things like that we do. So there are actually 6 pathways that are offered under the agriculture umbrella. Currently, Venus offers the applied agricultural engineering, which most people know as welding, and then the animal science pathway, and both of which we work towards some certifications. So, you want to do that one?
Go for it.
Okay, cool. So FFA, the easiest way I can explain it is you have your animal science pathway, your welding pathways, and then we equate that to athletics. So athletics is the class period, but basketball is the sport. So for us, animal science or welding is the class period, FFA is the sport. So we do a lot of extra contests, and that's kind of the easiest way that I can explain it. There are hundreds of thousands of dollars in scholarships through the FFA program alone, which is why that's a really big portion to the program.
The one thing about FFA that most people know is it's Future Farmers of America. Everybody is up to date on that. They changed it to just the National FFA organization because it's stretched so much farther than just farming now. I mean, you got kids building robots and stuff that are ag related, more ag adjacent, some of them. But I just kind of want to bring that up because I feel like it gets overlooked a lot with the farming aspect because everybody's like, oh yeah, they plant stuff, you know? But what's next? Oh, you go.
Is that me?
Yeah, that's you.
Sorry, taking turns. Okay, so we do a lot within, like she was talking about the basketball portion. A lot of this is our outside stuff. So LDEs, there is so many more. Those are the two that we had this year. So we had a kid who competed. Sayla is a freshman? Yes. Freshman who competed at she's supposed to be senior level, but Greenhand level and placed 7th.
She's a green
Sixth.
hand. She did.
Opposite,
Yeah.
sorry. She wasn't in the right division, and she actually did exceptionally well for where she was. And then we had a 7th grader who competed for the creed speaking, and he was self-taught and did all of that and has driven me crazy to do more. Because they want more of it once they get a taste of it. The CDE portion is what we're doing right now, so we all kind of train different things. Those are the ones we're currently doing. Some of us having one team, some of us having 3 teams. So vet science, land, home site, entomology, livestock judging, applied engineering, and then forage. Anything from bugs to vet science, they're doing calculations to injections, anatomy of the animal. Yes.
Autumn, could you tell us what those acronyms stand for? LDE,
Oh,
CDE?
sorry. Leadership development event, and then career development event, and then SDEs are speaking development events. So those are extemporaneous and prepared public speaking. The difference is they give the kids the information beforehand to make a speech on it, or they put them in a room for 20 to 30 minutes, tell them make a speech, and go in and present. I don't think we have anyone currently doing it. We've had kids that are interested in that. Because that's not currently happening. Agri-Science Fair, which is kind of Megan's deal. That's why we threw all 3 of them up there. Those are things, she has 3 kids that are currently working on it, correct? And doing anything from fish density, how it affects plant growth, to comparison of mineralized versus regular waters, and how it affects the plant life, and then store-bought lettuce versus aquaponics. And all of that. The welding contest, which is on the 9th. What?
When we talk about the welding contest?
Yeah, go for
Okay.
it. I've talked a lot.
Welding contests are a weird thing to talk about because you have your project shows and you have actual welding contests, which are experience-based. You do a job and they grade you on it. Most of the ones Mr. Webb is really big into is called the Texas High School Welding Series. Those kids go, they do the weld. If the CWI, the Certified Weld Inspector, passes their weld, they leave with a cert. There's 4 levels for each contest. If they do a level 4, they automatically get passed into the other 3 levels that they already exceeded. So if they didn't have that cert already, they would still pass for that cert, if that makes sense. The show project side of it, which I feel like some of you have seen some of the things maybe that we've put out. I'm going to sell more, by the way, end of the year. If you want a grill, let me know. Hit me up. I mean, that's more fun, and it's stuff we can do in the classroom to take and actually have kids show off. A lot of the kids that are in welding, they just want to work. They don't want to talk, and they don't want to present anything until it's their project, and then they'll run you around it 8 million times and tell you the tire that's on it if it's a trailer. Like, they're like, yeah, we bought that one at Tractor Supply and this one at Harbor Freight, and I don't even know why. They've got 2 different tires on it. So it's just there's a lot of opportunities behind it. We did miss one CDE. I also teach I have an ag mech contest that I do. It's tractors and stuff mostly. We're going to Cisco tomorrow, and hopefully they do well. I mean, they're all brand new. They're all freshmen, and I really hope I can just build them up and make them rock stars. But I don't know. That's all I got on that. Livestock shows. There's a lot. If you didn't know, there's a lot of livestock shows. We're gone a lot because of livestock shows. County's a week-long deal. Our county is very competitive now. When I was growing up, I grew up in Cleburne, not near as bad. We got some heavy hitters. I mean, Joshua and Cleburne. This year we had a kid get grand champion. Reserve grand champion showmanship. No, he got grand.
No, he got great
Oh.
showmanship.
Yeah, he got grand in showmanship. So we had a 4th place with a goat. We had a reserve grand with a breeding rabbit. Fort Worth. How'd the cows do? How'd the heifers do at Fort Worth? I don't remember.
We had a 3rd in class shorthorn.
San Angelo. Only you went because it
This-
froze.
This slide is really more about just kind of showing
Where they all are.
where all we go. Most of these shows are anywhere from 3 weeks to a month long, with each of the different species that we supervise being
And-
there from 2 days to 5.
And they all overlap almost every single time you don't need them to.
Every
Yeah.
one of those up there, one of us has been at or we've had a kid that is registered for it this year.
Yeah.
Multiple kids in most of them. Houston, I think we only had 2 that were registered. Texas Elite, we only had 1.
We left out the fall shows.
Sorry.
There's also State Fair and Heart of Texas in Waco. But those are the shows we go to. They all have every animal you can think of and every project you can think of. That's you. That's not me.
Cool. So the next 2 slides are basically just to give you an idea of classes and the program itself. Going into, so the light blue is this year's current enrollment in those different sections, and those are just the ones that I teach every day. And so this kind of gives you an idea of how quickly we're growing, like the program and class-wise. We're growing a lot faster than we can actually keep up. I have 23 currently in livestock, and next year it's projected to have 43, which is a 2nd class. And then small animal, I have 50 to maybe 55, and going into next year, we're projected to have 77 students in small animal alone. So we are.
Is that small animal that you're gonna have out of the barn?
Not really. Small animal. So that one's a semester course. Small animal in the fall, equine in the spring. So small animal won't go to the barn. My livestock classes go to the barn, and then on occasion the principals classes when we're talking about the breeds specifically.
So the welding program is getting massive. We're projected to have I think we had 117 kids sign up for just the intro class. 38 P-Tech, 70 something just regular intro. The welding 1 and welding 2, we lost like 2-3 kids in each of those for the kids that are moving up. But just the amount of interest with the incoming freshmen and the freshmen coming into sophomores is kind of crazy. I think we broke it down today. It was like 16 classes or something total if we had that amount of or even more with that amount of kids, like 20 kids a class. So it was pretty crazy. But that's the ag mech pathway. I'm happy there's interest, but it's a little overwhelming to think about.
What's the difference in the intro to welding and the P-Tech intro? What's the difference in the
I broke it up. Truthfully, it made the graph look really weird. We have 58 kids in intro to welding right now. When I had the 117 on there, it was just like, what? The P-Tech intro, it's basically they leave high school with an associate's. They have to do an application process. They have to do Summer Bridge, and take the TSI. I believe they're second year enrolled in that program. It's similar to the Hill College dual credit we've been offering, except that pathway is theirs and they work towards it immediately, whereas the dual credit with Hill College, I think it's juniors, seniors only. So it's similar but different, and we're trying a new program to hope, and it's growing, and we've got interest, so you could probably talk more about that. I'm not super.
No. So it's fair to say then that not only are we going to have a deficit as far as well, I mean, you can only have so many students in your class.
Yes.
I mean, it's we've got OSHA issues we have to deal with also when we're talking about welding and those kinds of things. So we're talking about facilities as well as probably instructors, aren't we?
Yes. With the numbers we currently have, me and Webb right now, it's doable. We both have we each have a class that's about 20 some odd kids, which is a lot. And especially his shop's bigger than mine, but especially my shop, 21 kids I mean, sometimes it's almost like shoulder to shoulder trying to teach, and it can't get through to everybody. So it's a little overwhelming.
So I did have a question. So now you said that they're going to get a different certificate. So is that a different certificate than what we're offering now? Are they going, because I know now they can't go over to like Gerdau or something like that and go straight in. They have to be retaught.
Yes. So the dual credit, basically those kids will enter college with a semester's worth of, or 2 semesters worth of hours, depending on how it's done. With P-Tech, they would graduate with an associate's. So if they got dual credit now and they do the 2 courses as a junior and as a senior, they would go in with a year under their belt and they'd have to do another year at Hill College proper, if that.
So is the P-Tech safe to say that's just freshmen enrollment? 'Cause that's who we're
Yes,
talking
yeah,
about.
that's freshmen only. That's why there's nothing else next to it.
Okay, so the intro is the other.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So what else does Ag Mechanic offer besides just welding?
I mean, a lot. There's small motors, hydraulic systems, woodworking, electrical pumps, almost anything in the work industry that you would see near us. Concrete work, the options are really limitless depending on the facilities.
So do we offer certifications in all those areas or just welding?
Right now, you're working on CBA, right?
Yeah, animal science wise, there are a couple they can work towards. Welding wise, that's
Welding wise, right now we have 2 certifications we do. One is for wire welding, one is for stick welding. It's the same certification, and it's very, very basic. So for the kids that don't do dual credit or don't do P-Tech, they don't have the college aspect with it, they know they got a certification, they're like, oh, I can go use that. It's a very minor certification in the grand scheme of welding. It's good to have, but it doesn't, if you're going to Gerdau or Martin Marietta or MW Welding, it's not going to help. It might get your foot in the door.
Do we have the capacity to not have to have Gerdau remediate our kids? Can we teach them what Gerdau would teach them so they could walk in there and?
Yeah. So I mean, I've been talking with some people at Martin Marietta. I've spoken to somebody at Gerdau, but I didn't get very far. They want people that will work. They don't need welders. If you have a basic set of skills and you know how to use your hands, they don't care if you know how to weld or you know how to woodwork or you know how to work on some electrical. They want somebody that's willing to work that isn't gonna be a bump on a log, is what I've been told.
And I think what they mean by that is that it's such a scarcity to find somebody who actually wants to put in a day's
It
work.
is.
They'll risk the fact that they don't know the welding.
Yeah, the one thing I try and teach kids more than anything is work ethic, and they don't fully comprehend it every time. Some kids do.
These kids do.
Yeah. You know, some kids do, and that's awesome. And you can get those kids to build the projects and to do the extra work. But getting them to break out of I want to play video games and stay at home is tough sometimes.
So, I guess it's probably just a P-TECH question. But if the kids that are coming in, the 8th graders coming into 9th grade, they're gonna be on the P-TECH intro. What about the ones that are already enrolled, say the freshmen now? Could they switch over to have that degree when they graduate, or is it only going to be for the 8th graders coming into the 9th grade?
That one's a little above my pay grade. As far as I'm aware, it's the incoming freshmen. The ones that are already enrolled can still do dual credit through Hill College, how we have done it.
And the difference is the amount of hours that they have to take from their freshman year to their graduation, that they have to be a P-TECH kid from the beginning. Like Bo said, they can still get some of the dual credit stuff towards Hill College, but as far as being able to achieve the associate's degree, it has to start at 9th grade because of the crosswalks in the pathway.
So with that being said, so if they're in it their freshman year, so I know we've talked a little bit about the P-TECH, they take 2 classes. So are they going to be able to take it for the full 4 years? Are they gonna have to bring something else out where they're not gonna be able to do like athletics or band or something where they're gonna have to now take this P-TECH for the 4 years just in welding?
And that's one of the things that we're looking at very closely as far as moving some things around, because we know number one thing, we don't want to lose kids in band. And we don't want to lose kids in athletics. There will become a time that they may have to choose because they're not going to have the availability in their schedule to, if they want to do athletics and band, probably not a likelihood, just because of the number of hours that they have to complete prior to graduation to get the associate's degree. Now, there are going to be some other options that we figure in, and this is all ground level stuff. You know, there will be those kids that may have to take some summer courses. Maybe they didn't get all the coursework that they needed during the regular school year, so they have to do some extra to get get the hours to get the 60 hours for the associate's degree.
Are there any questions about our program?
I know that y'all have a lot of animals out at the barn. Just a question. I mean, I've been out there.
You want current or like over the last year? Because I have both.
Yeah, like what were the numbers last year to this year? Because I know our cattle part has really expanded. So just wondered, do we have enough space, or are we having to turn people away?
The honest answer is, if we continue growing like we are, yes. At least going into next year, currently I have 6 cattle pens, but I'm projected to have 7 or 8 head of cattle, and I don't have space for all of them. And I have a couple families that can house their animals at home, but then they lose out on that team mentality. It makes it harder for me to go pick them up when it's time to go to show. I know on our pig side, we had 11 this year, and we have 14 pens. Goats, we have 5 or 6. We had 2 goats this year. We're projecting to have about 5 next year. So we in every area of our program, we're growing a lot faster than we can physically keep up.
Well, we got Huck to be here, so we can maybe figure that out. No pressure, got it.
We need that done in like 5 minutes.
Noted,
Yes.
understood.
Okay, cool. Thank y'all.
I appreciate it, thank you. Okay.
And just to
Yep.
reiterate what Megan said is the direction of the program is to build it the biggest and the best, whether it be LDE, CDE, welding, livestock, whatever, because it provides opportunities for kids to get out and be around other kids. And I'm going to tell a little story. My daughter was highly involved. Her freshman year in college, she goes to Angelo State, and she crawls in the elevator to go up to her dorm. and she gets this weird feeling. 2 kids step on the elevator, and they're halfway up to the 10th floor, and they said, "Didn't you show animals?" And she goes, "Yeah, I was on the sheep and goat committee for District 7. And they go, "We were on the same." So they made contacts in college. This is a lifetime contact, because having our kids be able to go out and mix and mingle and be part of a program that will last them a lifetime.
Can I ask a question about growth? Because I know they said that we're kind of outgrowing, and I know with our physical buildings, we are experiencing challenges. But what about with the ag department? Because I know that they have the barn and they have the space. So do we have that projected? Or are we trying to?
Well, that's one of the things that we're going to have to look into as far as the actual number of projects, because, you know, they get projections all the time. Kids want to do this, they want to do this, want to do this. Our facility currently, with the number of pens and space we have available, is starting to get tight. We need a 3rd welding lab and a 3rd welding instructor for the number of kids that want to be in that program. And it's just simple facts.
Yeah, as you said, the program is growing. We added on, was it 4 years ago? I guess it was. We added on to that barn, and it's filled up that fast. So, yeah, we need to get some drawings on the paper.
Do we have a lead ag person that we can talk to? We don't have a lead teacher.
You can talk to me or
Mr. Camacho?
and those 3 back there at any time.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank y'all. Okay, we're gonna go to item number 7, opportunity for public comment. Anybody sign up? Okay. Well, nobody signed up. So now we're gonna go to item number 8, presentation of Venus High School utilization study as conducted by Huckabee Architects.
We asked Huckabee to do this utilization study for the high school, and again, what they were looking for is just that. How are we utilizing the school? Are there any creative ways we could use spaces? And with that, I'm real pleased with the report they put together. But with that, this is Miss Jenna Norton and, of course, Cameron Mason.
Hello, it's great to be here. Thank you so much. I don't know if I need the mic, but anyway. Yes, as Mr. Hopper was saying, we had the great opportunity to walk through your campus with Mr. Camacho and just really take a look at how the building is being utilized. As you guys know, when you first design and build a building, you have an intention of what you want it to do. And then as time progresses over the years, you go, you know what, we need this and we need this, and you start using the spaces in different ways. So this is a great opportunity to really take a look at how the building is being utilized and really work with the principal to, you know, engage him and ask, what do you think? What would be best? You know, how is this space being utilized? Is it the way it should be utilized? So, and if you guys remember, we did a long-range planning report middle of last year, right? And so the aim was to look at, you know, how do we address our growth? So we've had a bit of a stall because of the financial availability currently. So it was a great opportunity for us to look at, okay, since we can't go and build these buildings that we need, what can we do to maximize the building that we have? And so really this is what Mr. Hopper wanted to see. How can we maximize what we have, because we're at capacity? So anyway, with that, if you could go to the next slide. So we put this presentation together, and as I just communicated, the introduction and purpose was really that is there was a need to see how can we best utilize the high school campus. So if you would go to the next slide, Liz, thank you. Keep going. Yeah, so this kind of lays out what I just shared about the path that has led to the utilization report with the long-range planning report, and then the financial capacity that came back, and then from there the intent to do the utilization report. And essentially what the utilization report does is it really takes a look at how you can best maximize on your campus and how you use it, and to make sure that all the spaces are being used the way they're intended, and are there spaces that aren't being used that we need to utilize? So really look at it from all different angles. You can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, and then next one. Okay, so from here, we just kind of documented the walkthrough of the campus. So we've highlighted some of the things, the angles that we looked at, right? So how are the classrooms being used? Are there spaces that are used and not for instructional space, for instructional use? Is there spaces we could change around? Is there spaces that are next to each other that we could maybe make into a classroom? So how can we create more capacity on your high school campus to accommodate for the growth that you have coming? Essentially, that's what we did. This shows you the existing Venus High School master plan and the classrooms and the spaces and labels, if that makes sense. We used your master plan document as well as the master schedule and put this document together for you. And then on the next slide, it calls it out. If you are not able to see color, which became a concern when we were doing our report. Anyway, if you could go to the next slide. Okay, so wanted to just call out a few of the things during the walkthrough that we found. Spaces that were being used for instruction that weren't initially intended, like your lecture hall, with the tiered seating is being used as a classroom space. It's what you've had to do with what you have, but it's not the most efficient use of space, if that makes sense. And then the annex is currently being used, the cafeteria annex is currently being used as a classroom due to lack of space. Administration areas lack privacy and just short of space. So the high school campus is having to do what they can to accommodate for that, tight fit, if you will. The furniture is antiquated and could be updated, and also there's not consistency in the technology. So the science classrooms also lack lab space and are not to code per TEA. So unless you're doing new construction, you have to worry about that just yet, but it was more of an issue of lack of space, if that makes sense. If you could go to the next slide, Liz. So we took some images, some pictures of what we're talking about. Up top, the two images, you can see the tiered lecture hall and how it's being used, and then the cafeteria annex, and we'll have this on the next slide, but the engineering shop classroom is in a portable, right? So be great for it to be in a space where, you have concrete flooring, so, it's more durable floor and more conducive for what they're looking to do in the engineering shop. If you could go to the next one, yeah. Images of your science labs and ISS, but when we were talking through it, the question was, is this a good space? Because we don't want people to stay in ISS for long, so that really makes you not want to be there. So anyway, next slide, please. Just a few more. I touched on the CTE shop space up top, and then we also looked at the portables location and how students are crossing back and forth through an active driveway to get to their classrooms. And like I mentioned, the ISS being housed where it is in an unconventional space, right?
That's called Venus Understands.
Anyway, I think if you go to the next slide, and then I'm going to pass it over to Cameron, and he's going to go over just some of the options that we vetted through with Mr. Camacho and Mr. Hopper for your consideration. Okay.
Good evening. I definitely don't need the microphone, but I'll leave it on anyway. So yeah, we walking around, we had a great opportunity to really see the action of the day, and go to several different spaces with Mr. Camacho. And we really focused on, you can see on the screen, a couple of key areas. The blue represents areas that can be minor renovation, almost a switch of classrooms, either zero work or very, very minimal work to be done. And then the yellow is probably a little bit more significant areas But you can see that's about the extent of where we were able to find room. The short version is, and conversations that you've had today pertaining to welding and ag, you guys are hitting a capacity, and as you continue to grow, that's going to be the issue. So we were able to find a couple of things that, and also this is a shot in time. We walked this several weeks ago. We've had an opportunity to sit down with Mr. Camacho and Mr. Hopper. I totally just flipped that. Mr. Camacho and Mr. Hopper. And we talked through some of these. Some of these are not feasible for this community, but this was something that we took a shot at to say, okay, here are some thoughts that we had. And so we can move on. So some of these you're going to see consistently on the different options. The options aren't holistic. It's not an all or nothing type of an option, but just different areas. So looking up at the area where the annex is in the northwest corner, there could be some adjustments, taking the SRO office and moving it elsewhere, and then. Oh, thank you.
Oh,
okay.
thank you. That's going to be helpful.
Well, I was going to ask Mr. Moore to stand up in Vanna White for me.
It's working.
This one working? Okay. So up here in the northwest corner, the annex on this particular version, very minimal renovation, just really taking the SRO office and possibly reutilizing it for something else. In this version, taking the SRO office and actually moving it down here. This is where the annex, or pardon me, the lecture hall space is, as well as one of the English classrooms. One of the previous photos, or the previous slides with the photos, one of these English classrooms are tiered seating, not very efficient use for the function of the classroom, and there really could be an opportunity here. Now, this would require some construction, this would require some work, but you could break this up into, instead of having 2 classrooms and very poor utilization, you could break it up 3 classrooms, an SRO office with easy access out of the building, as well as more centrally located within the classroom space, as opposed to in its current location. Another area that we really looked at and focused on was this, the welding space and the ag space. Obviously we all know that those programs are predominant in this community and in this district. And so how can we best utilize this? In the current state, as Jenna mentioned, there is for Dr. Morgan's engineering class, he has a classroom here, but then he has a shop out in one of the portables. It's not an ideal location, so how can you bring that function into the building to be able to be utilized by all of the students? So it's not just a one-off opportunity. And so we looked at this particular classroom and said, well, if you wanted to bring in more of a dirty shop next to your welding area, something that can be utilized for woodworking or more of the messy animal science stuff that's still in the classroom space, and then have more traditional teaching spaces utilized there. That would mean this would be shared rather than being a standalone classroom, that's unoccupied for half of the class cycle, as Dr. Morgan transitions his kids from their computer stations out to the classroom. So this was, and like I said, this was a suggestion. As the different programs are growing and becoming available, this may or may not be feasible, but this was something that we looked at very intently. These two are truly just removal of trying to get things out from the portable and then relocate them to the interior of the class, trying to get some of your core classroom spaces whether it's, currently you have an English teacher that's out in the portable, all of the rest of the English subjects or all of the rest of the English classrooms are along one corridor. So trying to grow them all together and get them so that they're more consistent. This last piece, again, we discussed this. This was purely just throwing ideas out there, and that really may not be feasible, but want to go ahead and talk through it anyway. And that's closing off this main corridor and putting classrooms in there. You have enough space to be able to put some classrooms in there. In this scheme, this has one classroom space, and then the space next to it is actually where you're relocating your, what's it called? I'm sorry? The behavioral classroom. So the behavioral classroom does not need to be the size of a full classroom. So currently it's utilized in a full classroom space, probably could be something that's in a smaller space. The downside about this is obviously it's taking away one of your major thoroughfares during passing periods. Now, from a distance standpoint, for a student to come over here from the English hall and traverse, up and around over here to this science wing or over here to the science wing, distance-wise, we're not talking about, going across a college campus in the course of that passing period. But spatially, when you have all those kids in that corridor, it's going to create a bottleneck. And so that's why these particular ideas may or may not be feasible.
So really one of the things to consider, and we know that we need to build something as soon as we can. I mean, everybody knows that. But one of the things we have to consider here then too is not just classroom space, but the hallways themselves, the passageways between the classrooms. That's where we're going to feel it. Already feel it as much as we do in the classrooms themselves.
Absolutely, and to be honest, your corridors aren't, for what they were designed for, aren't poorly designed. They're, at your intended capacity, and as you grew, these corridors were good sized corridors. But yes, as in a current format, anything less than 10 to 12 feet it gets tight, especially if you don't have a main thoroughfare that allows these smaller corridors to dump into, again, during these passing periods, because we all know that we have the kids want to congregate together, and I say kids, excuse me, young adults want to congregate together and hang out. And I mean, that's a great time to do that. And so
right. And the point being that we can add portables till the cows come home. The hallways don't get wider.
Right.
Yeah.
You can go to the next one. Oh, that is the next one. Thank you. So this one's actually very similar. The biggest adjustment on this, you see up in the annex area, we took away the other two offices, making this one of the classrooms. This allows still for the annex to be functioned as part of the cafeteria, but allowing the teacher that's in there currently to actually have an enclosed space so that during the day they're not just, people aren't traversing through their classroom. In doing so, moving more function back into the admin space. In this version, taking a couple of the admin offices for the P-TECH and scholarship office that were over in the annex, and moving them to the two AP offices out of the admin suite and moving them down into this, again, corridor. So in this solution, the behavior classroom still in the corridor, but bringing these two APs, again, centrally located, giving them larger offices so that they can have their private meetings, where they're not front and center in the middle of the reception where, everyone's listening to things that parents are saying and that the kids are saying as they're expressing themselves. So this brings it central. It's right off the restroom, so you're not worried about, getting that transition, that transference of noise. But it allows them to be front and center so that they're engaged with the students at all times. The same layout for the what we'll call the lecture hall and the English classroom. One thing to point out, and I know this is very difficult to see, I apologize. Some of this is going to be a scheduling thing, and Mr. Camacho, we discussed this, and as the next semester rolls around and as the semester after that rolls around, there's going to be things to work out. One of the things we were able to find was the teacher that's teaching in 3 days a week, or excuse me, 3 periods a day in the library could potentially be offset with a teacher that's teaching music at the middle school for those 3 periods, and there could be some potential of saving some space that way so that your library, which is already sized a little bit on the small side because of the community factor of it, would be utilized for students all day, every day as an open library. The other spaces are all the same from the previous slide. By the way, feel free to jump in and ask any questions if you. Last one. Yep, okay. So this one takes the annex out of the equation. Now this, again, as a suggestion, or excuse me, not even a suggestion, as an option, comes to a communication with Mr. Camacho and with the district as a whole. Going to a 4th lunch period or going to a different scenario for that, there's pros and cons for all of these decisions, but this would be one of those because you absolutely need that space if you are going to continue with your current format. We were there fortunately for 2 of the 3 lunch periods, and I was shocked because I know how many students you have in your building, and that second lunch period was full. And Mr. Camacho assured me that wasn't even the full lunch period, that the 3rd lunch period is more. So I was like, well, where? So, sorry guys. But by doing this, you open up an opportunity for making some classroom spaces into that annex space. Again, bringing more kids into the building from the portables, not having to go across that, not having to exit the building and go into the portables, and just really, trying to bring as much into the building as you can. In this scenario, the same dynamic is here with the scholarship office and the P-TECH office moving into the administrative suite. This becoming, more of a general conference room that can be utilized by everyone in the admin suite. Possibly, whatever you guys want could be there. The biggest change on this particular scheme, as you can see, we left the corridor open. By doing this, the biggest change is instead of having 3 classrooms in this area, you only have 2, and then this last one down here is the behavioral classroom. Still moving the 2 APs into this corridor, still allowing them to be front and center and engaged with a lot of the activity that's going to be going on during the day, and then still keeping the 2 classrooms. This is the English classroom that was, I think, in the portable, and then one of these is the English teacher that is teaching the college courses, the dual credit courses, and then the music classroom. And the music classroom, again, having at least somewhat adjacency, could potentially knock a door in there and have it access to the band hall if that was appropriate. Go ahead.
And then the next one.
So the last piece is really just looking out at the portables. Most of this is just referencing what we've already talked about bringing some of these portables inside. The biggest one that we discussed is really the engineering shop space and trying to bring that into the building. The floor piece of it is one part of it, but the overall dynamic of what's in that space, and if you went back a couple of slides, if you'll go back a couple of slides to the photos, yeah, that one. So this is the engineering shop classroom. In the long term, as you continue to develop this program, and it sounds like Dr. Morgan's doing a great job with it, you're gonna want, some good tools and, power capabilities, and obviously even from a reutilization of what this could be in the future. Thinking about more of a dirty space as opposed to a classroom space. These portables are designed for classroom spaces and classroom functions. And so just thinking about that and looking at it and seeing, the types of tables that they have, how much space they have. Currently I'm seeing 6 tables in there, maybe 8. that's not a huge room and not a huge space for a full classroom to come in and be able to continuously work on projects. So this is going to probably get very beat up very quickly. Things get dropped, things get, they're doing work out there. So when this can possibly be reutilized as a classroom, it could potentially take some work to bring it back up to classroom functionality. You can go back to the. Back one. So, like I said, and the only other thing that we talked about here was the option potentially of fencing in that area in order to keep us a secure zone, a space that that kids can't get out and other people aren't coming in. The downside about that, and again, this came with the conversation that we had with Mr. Camacho, was that is one of the major bus zones. It's not just about the fire loop, because you can have some fire turnaround spaces for the fire department and work with them from a fire safety standpoint, but more so from a circulation of parent drop-off and bus drop-off and actual vehicular circulation. So maybe this might have to get reworked and rethought of, but that is something that, again, from our initial conversations and our initial look at it, was something that we just wanted to at least put out there, as the necessity for these portables is absolute. These classrooms, even the ones that we're identifying as being in this view potentially open, this potentially being a future portable location, there's very little doubt that those are going to be utilized in the future. But how do you maximize this so that you are maintaining the standards that the Venus ISD has held for these kids? So.
And Cameron, you're saying this is just a fencing, like we're not like adding on, we're not.
Correct.
Including any type of space, we're just cornering off that walkway from.
Correct. Now, there would still be, because there is egress coming out of the building in multiple locations, you would still have gate access with panic devices that would be secure from the outside, potentially with card readers so that teachers could still be utilized to get in, but that everyone could exit the space in the event of an emergency. But yes, purely just a fence enclosure to provide that secure space, the enclosed space.
And the thing that we need to consider in that also is, of course, the purpose here was not to do the whole district, but this campus. But, if you're gonna do one, now you're talking about fencing on all of them, the portables that we have on all these campuses. And if that is indeed, the direction the district wants to go, we would include DAP also, or would we just leave them outside the fence?
I didn't, and the reason I didn't was because they are being, that there's students in there that would be from the middle school as well, to my understanding. So not having them in the enclosed space certainly could be, but that was not my intent.
Building, so there's not a transition. Yeah.
So, to sum up, I think at the end of the day, the conversations that you all have been having, and like Jenna mentioned earlier, through some of the challenges we had with the bonding capacity, we see where the problem is and we see where the direction is. I think it just comes down to what you all decide to do next. We're here for whatever you guys need us to do. So if that means whatever the barn thing was, let me know.
The barn thing. Yeah. And that being said, if the board wanted them to take a look at other campuses, I know one of the things that Ms. Buck and I've talked about, she's got a space over there affectionately known as the smoking lounge. Is that what that is?
Only to you.
So it's that glass enclosed. Two sides of it is glass, and it's that.
If you came to the showcases where they had the crime scene.
Bottom line is she's in need of another office space, and you might describe that as well. And so we were talking about being able to maybe put a wall right there and That'd actually be a great office. But we could,
currently with adding. It's a closet, a long skinny closet, sorry. And that's where we have put our, officer at the moment. It was where we kept all of the testing. It was the testing room, all the secure testing materials. So being able to get that back by closing that office in, it is usable space for when teachers have kids working on a project or whatever, but it's not, it would never be big enough for a classroom or anything like that. It would never be big enough for anything more than an office.
It just has the seating right now, right? It's just not
Yes, where it has the little,
flexible seating.
yes, yes ma'am, yes ma'am.
that's something maybe we could bring a drawing of the next meeting perhaps.
As long as you don't want me to draw it, we'll be okay.
Put glass wall, glass door.
And you actually can see out.
Yeah.
I did want to just say that, you know, with this report, like Cameron said, it's up to you how you want to proceed. It's a challenging situation. You have growth coming, but the financial side is not catching up as quick as you had anticipated. So, you know, it puts you in a tough position. But we want to support you however that we can to accommodate for your growth until you can, you know, truly address the growth issues that you've got or growth opportunities you've got, you know, to build some new great campuses. So we are here to support you however we can. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much. That gave us a lot to work with, so. Okay, we're gonna kind of go out of order here just real quick because we've got some students here. And I'd like to go to item number 14 to consider approval of the Venus High School out-of-state band trip for spring 2024.
Can I make a comment? Because I know everyone gets conscious about that speaker, but the speaker's not so we can hear you, it's for our live feed that's going out, so they can hear you. So that's the only reason.
Sure.
Otherwise, I wouldn't care if you stood over here and just talking
Sure.
face to face, but it's for their sake.
Okay. Well, my name is Ross Langdon. I'm Director of Bands for Venus ISD. And before I present the band trip proposal for next school year, in about 1 year, I want to recognize a few students. I know Mr. Camacho recognized these students, but I just want to bring them here in person and then just recognize them for the accomplishments that they made, and then we can take a quick picture, and then I can keep going on. Once I state your name, go ahead. You can stand up and just stand right over there. We have Jacob Olson on keyboard percussion. Go ahead. Stand right there. We'll take a picture. We have Yamileth Quintana on the flute trio. We have Addison Zappa on flute trio. And Samantha Pico on keyboard percussion. Keep going, Jacob. Cody Parker, keyboard percussion. And Mariana Lares on flute trio. And basically what these students have accomplished, solo and ensemble, like Mr. Camacho said, was in late February. And all the students that participated made a first division. These students not only made a first division, but they advanced to the state solo and ensemble competition, which is in late May. And you notice how some I said keyboard percussion and some flute trio. So we have our 3 flute players right over here, and they played in a flute trio ensemble. And it is a very challenging piece of music, and they made a first division. And because they are advancing is because of the level of literature. They had to play, it's called a Class 1 solo. Class 1's the hardest, in class. I believe, I think it goes to 4 or 5 is the easiest. So they made a first division on that, and so they advanced to state. And then we have our 3 individual soloists, all on keyboard percussion, and they not only had to play a class 1 solo, but they had to, if you do a solo and you want to advance, they had to memorize the solo. So those 3 memorized their solo, and this is our flute trio. So we're very excited about these 6 students, and we hope that we keep getting more and more every single year. But one thing before we take a picture, we worked with these students, but with solo and ensemble, I just asked the students if they want to do it or not. So this is all on them. I would help them when they asked. I would work with them a little bit, or Mr. Hasso did with percussion. But for the most part, the students did this accomplishment because of the hard work, and they wanted to do it. And so these are fantastic leaders. They're all in leadership positions in the band program. We have drum majors and band presidents and section leaders up here, but these are wonderful, not only band students, but also for the community and at Venus High School. So let's give them a round of applause. And we'll take a quick picture.
Just a little bit this way. Yeah,
Sure.
go up there.
We'll take one without me, and then I'll get in there.
All right, guys, right here. All right, Mr. Langdon.
Okay. All right.
All right, everybody right here. Got it.
Thank you so much. Okay. Alrighty. So, 2 years ago, we went to Orlando, Florida, and it was a big deal and a huge success. I think we had around 72 students total in the high school band program, and we had about 50 band students that said that they wanted to go, so they went, along with many other chaperones. And so we're going to go on a band trip every 2 years. So next spring, we would like to take them to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and also Pigeon Forge. And the nights are a little bit different. There is one typo in here, and I'll address it later, but it's basically it's a 4-day trip, not a 3-day trip. And I won't read every single word in here, just kind of an overview, but we have 4 nights at this hotel in the conference center, of course, 4 breakfasts. But the big thing that we'll do that's not on the itinerary that we're going to get it changed is we'll tour the Smoky Mountain National Park. And that's kind of an all-day thing. The 2 educational components are this Broadway musical Motown that will go one evening, and the other educational package, I'm not sure if I see it right up here, but I'll probably get to it a little bit later on. Oh, right here, Ripley's Smoky Mountain Aquarium. Now, we don't have to go to both of these, but these are just options that the band directors and the travel company that we'll discuss. But those are 2 things that we can definitely go to. So it's not set in stone yet. But the 2 other things that we'll definitely go to is the Dollywood theme park and then the island at Pigeon Forge. So those are the two things that we'll go to, and those are 2 of the educational components that we'll definitely consider. And then probably a lot of one day will be around the Smoky Mountain National Park. All right, the next slide. And this is just just an itinerary. The first day we'll leave March 8th. And the cool thing about this is school is out. This is a Friday, so school will be out that day, and it'll carry into spring break. So no students will miss any school, which is very important to me and Mr. Camacho. Sorry, guys. And then the next day, so we'll leave, and then we'll get to Tennessee that first day. This day will be mainly the Dollywood theme park, and then later will be the Motown musical. And then the next one. And then the next day will be, again, we can go to the aquarium. We're still kind of discussing it. But another a theme park is the island at Pigeon Forge. And the next slide. And then this says we're returning. We are not returning this day. It'll be a 4-day trip and not a 3-day trip. But this day will probably be centered around the national park that we'll attend, and some other, do at your own like sort of activities at the hotel or whatnot. But the next day, March 12th, is probably when we're going to return. So here's just the 2 things, the educational components that we'll go and see. I'm definitely excited about the Motown because these are Broadway musicians, which if you ever been to New York or anything like that, it's pretty phenomenal to hear musicians like that. And then, of course, the aquarium. You can go to the next one. Again, I'm not going to read every single word, but just basically, those are the two components. Motown is definitely an amazing thing to attend. And then here's another thing that we can do, and that's the Ripley's Aquarium of the Smokies. Just kind of gives you an overview of what can happen that day. We can go to the next slide. This is what a lot of people really want to know about band trips. And this is actually cheaper than the Orlando trip by about $100, which is pretty phenomenal. But if 4 students want a room together, it'll cost about $517. And those are pretty well set in stone with our traveling company. If 3 students want a room together, that's how much it's going to cost, a double and single. And we did have students that are like, I don't want a room with anybody. I want my own bed and I want to be left alone, which is okay. They get that's how much they would need to pay for a single occupancy. The other reason why it's so cheap is because we don't ask the students or the families to pay for transportation. We provide that. Well, we don't provide it, but we do fundraising. We've asked Band Boosters to help donate a little bit of money. But the big fundraiser I'll get to here in a little bit pays for a lot of the transportation. But per charter bus, it costs a little over $13,000. It could change a little bit. We'll see what the pricing on the oil pricing is here in about a year. But that's how much it'll cost. And usually we take about 2 charter buses, I believe, that can fit comfortably 40. I think they can fit 90, I'm sorry, not per bus. Like they can fit about 90 to 100. But last time we took 2 buses and we assumed that we're going to do the exact same.
Mr. Langdon?
Yes.
If you were to take our own buses, would that thwart this trip as far as the package is concerned?
Are you saying, would we get like this price if we took our own school buses? Or are you
Yes.
talking about?
Well, what I'm saying is we're going to be ordering some activity buses,
Mhm.
and I don't know if the board
Mhm.
wants to use them for this purpose or not. But would that knock this? Would that run counter to your plans here? Would you still? Be able to take this trip?
Actually help and enhance the plan because we wouldn't necessarily have to think about that price.
I mean, that's $26,000.
Yeah, it is. In last.
I thought she said 18 months for the activity buses.
14, I think.
Mhm.
If obviously, if
I've
everything's ready to
heard
go.
from Ms. Sampson that could be a possibility and so
May not be,
but yes, it would be definitely a help just because 2 years ago we raised about $11,000 and then we had some more money in student activity and we kind of had to get a little bit creative. But this little statement that student prices can be adjusted based on success of fundraiser, that's where we don't want to go. Because if we tell parents, and there's some band parents here that, hey, this is how much it's going to cost if your child stays in with 3 other people, we want to keep it at that. So that's why that is the absolute last resort. But yes, what you just said would definitely enhance and help that aspect of it.
So clearly no promises here, but maybe.
It would be amazing. Yeah.
My understanding is that we're buying 2 new activity buses, but we have buses already on the parking lot that we're using as activity buses anyhow. So what difference does it make if those come in or not?
They're not going to want to take those other buses.
Right.
I don't want to be rude.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, no, okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that makes sense. Okay, you'd
Yeah.
rather spend 24,000.
Yeah, charter buses, and I think
I'm just saying, I'm just stating that
Mhm.
fact.
Yeah.
that It doesn't matter when those buses come in necessarily.
Mhm.
That's
It would
just y'all's
probably
choice.
cost us more to send our own buses just based off of how many they'd have to take with all the luggage and stuff that
Mhm.
they would.
Yeah, because the charter buses, that's where you put the luggage as well, so that definitely helps with transportation. But yeah, that would be pretty incredible if that was the case. But we also want to prepare for, anything that can happen, especially financially. And then of course all the fundraiser would go to the student activity fund. Okay. Go on the next one. So this is what I'll say to every student and parent. Every student that wants to go on the trip will go on the trip. That's just what's going to happen. A student, they do have the option to. They may choose not to go on on the trip. So those two statements are very, very important. Everybody that wants to go will go on the trip. But a student may choose not to go. Like I said last time at the Orlando trip, we had around 72 high school band students, and about 50 went. 50 chose to go. So that's definitely a big deal. But, you know, every student that wants to go on the trip, they will do fundraiser. And they need to just show effort on raising funds. And that's the main thing I'll do. If a student comes to me and you know, talks about financial hardships, but I want to go on the trip, I'll do everything in my power to help that student on, okay, let's talk about getting a job. Let me help you with fundraiser, whatever I can do. Maybe let's try to go venture out and find a sponsor. Just because we want every student to have an opportunity to go on these trips, because they can be life-changing. As you may know, just some people just don't go out of the state, and I had the opportunity to do it as a band student, touring Europe for 2 weeks or going to Colorado. It's pretty life-changing, not just a musical aspect, but also you kind of remember it, everything. So we want to give every student and family an opportunity to do this. And then this is a big deal. Students don't make payment. I never accept any money. They pay everything through Troubadour Consultants. That's the company that we go through. So they never pay a band director, which I like. Okay. And then fundraisers, we accept donations. Band boosters definitely help out. A lot of this fan pledge has been a game changer for raising money, because last year we profited about $11,000, and all it is just a donation fundraiser. I know that also band boosters are figuring out ways to help out as well. And then a lot of things that I just say is everyone must participate, and it will help everybody, especially for transportation. We also set up payment plans. We just don't say, okay, it's about March, let's go ahead and pay it. We set up well in advance the very first month of school. We accept these payment plans. You know, the first payment is about $50, and then every month it's about $75. But then I leave off December for Christmas to kind of help out. And then, of course, this right here doesn't add up to $500, but whatever they owe, they pay in February. So they just make these payments, and they can make more than that if they want to. And then whatever they owe, they just pay right after that. And then this insurance can be purchased, meaning if you need to cancel for any reason, that you get all your money back. And so that's a big deal. And we just tell them, like, hey, it's probably a really good idea to just go ahead and purchase that. I don't think it's expensive. It's anywhere between $25 to maybe $50 when these families start signing up, just because anything can happen, especially with sickness. Okay. And then this doesn't necessarily pertain to you, but this is what I'll tell the chaperones. You're here to work. And to help the band. It's not a vacation. You must stay with the band. We need one chaperone every 10 students. You must pay like every student going on the trip. You must travel with the band, riding on the charter bus with the band. And then I had to tell them that your children that aren't in high school band, they're just not allowed on the trip. I did allow that last time, but we're just not going to do it this time, just because we feel like if you're in high school band, it's a privilege to go on these band trips. And again, like the children that went with us that weren't in band were fantastic children. It's just we want it to be a privilege and honor to go on these trips. So that's why we'll make that. And of course, all chaperones will be approved by a band director. You got to do a criminal background check. And we really encourage teachers and administrators going on this. It's very, very fun for them to go. So, but yeah, that's about it. Does anybody have any questions?
I know a banjo picker in the Smoky Mountains that could probably give you a performance too.
Mm-hmm.
So, seriously.
All right. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you need a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Oh, got a motion by Tasha
I got a
and a second by Kirby. All in favor? Motion passes.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're gonna go back to item number 9, discussion concerning roof repair and replacement.
Oh, now the most exciting part.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ron Cooper, and I was retained by Venus ISD in May of 2022 to represent you guys in your risk pool, your fund negotiation with TASB. You know, it's been a pretty interesting year to say the least. When I was retained immediately in May, we got essentially a reservations of rights letter from TASB saying that we're giving you $4 million to replace your roof and your rooftop units for your air conditioners. However, we're going to hold back $2.7 million. We're going to give you 1.4. And also, you had 365 days to complete your repairs. And so we're not going to actually extend the 2.7. We're only going to give you the 1.4. And so as soon as I got on to the file, I immediately set a meeting with David Snyder of TASB, Mr. Hopper, and some other administrators were in the room, where I pointed out the fact that due to their delays, due to their limitations, due to their issues, the school was not able to complete the necessary repairs. And essentially we had a prevention of performance issue because they had undervalued the claim, they had underestimated it, and they didn't give the reasonable necessary components to do the job correctly. And, you know, some back and forth ensued, but ultimately TASB, at their chagrin, gave us what I was asking for, which was to reset the clock, put the 2.7 back on the table, and allow us to ensue negotiations to the point where at the end of this, the clock would start, meaning after we fully got all the reasonable and necessary items that the school needs to be fully indemnified from the hail event, that then the 365-day clock would start. And to Mr. Hopper and the administrator's agreement, that's what we've agreed to. So we are now sitting back again at roughly $4.3 million. So I want to thank you guys for that assist, and we worked very hard to get that back on the table. Following the conversations of the reservations of rights, I did some inspections, lots of inspections. I've been all over these roofs. I think this is my 10th time to your school district to inspect your properties. I was very clear and honest with TASB in the meeting, and I said, I'm not going to hide anything. I've done my inspections. Your parapet walls are damaged, and the curbs on your rooftop units are damaged. And so let me just briefly describe kind of what we're dealing with here. Across your school complex, you got various components and cladding on your exterior envelopes that has sustained various degrees of damage to the April 21 hail event. TASB hired IAS, which is an independent insurance adjuster, to evaluate your property. It was a very haphazard approach at best, if my opinion matters. To put this into context, you guys know you have a lot of metal roofing across your school district. The only metal roofs that TASB has made offers to pay for are the 4 buildings next to the library, your portables. They bought the metal on those roofs, but they didn't buy any of the metal on any of your other buildings. And I'm going to be honest with you, those have the least amount of damage compared to the other roofs that I have evaluated. So I was very clear with TASB in early June of 2020 that those roofs sustained damage, and I expect them to participate accordingly. The other roofs that you guys have, your flat roofs, a lot of them are gravel ballasted. Essentially, to get a visual, you have gravel driveways and roads on top of your buildings, and that gravel protects the built-up roof systems from ultraviolet light and would-be hail impacts. So when really large hailstones, similar to the ones you guys sustained in April, hits a built-up roof system that's gravel protected, it creates what we call in the industry as a bird bath. Basically, it looks like a crater. And it's very, very imperative that you get up and you inspect those roofs with that particular cladding early so that when the rain ensues, it doesn't wash out the bird baths. Those hail impacts are good indicators for me to inspect to say, hey, where could be a potential bruising of your system to allow water to get in. Unfortunately, TASB didn't inspect the roofs after they were notified early enough, and a lot of rain ensued, and we lost a lot of that evidence. The roofers and various individuals over the year has done nuclear scanning, basically checking for moisture in the roofs. I've worked very diligently with your maintenance staff, Ronnie, and those administrators to help me identify where the leaks were coming in. A lot of your roofs are moisture saturated. The issue with the parapet walls, basically the wall that makes the perimeter of your building, and the curbs that your rooftop units sit on, is they are not protected by the gravel ballast. So they're open to the elements and very easily damaged by really large hailstones. And TASB had bought some of the built-up roofs on the primary school, and the parapet walls and the curbs are made of the very same material. They were all in the very same storm. So it was very unclear to me why they weren't covering those particular elements. Again, in the meeting, very early June, I said, hey, just to be clear, I've evaluated those parapets. They are damaged. The curbs are damaged. Based on the age, condition, and obsolescence of your roof system, I would not recommend to Venus to do repair on those roofs. In contract terms, you know, we would likely see what's called a hold harmless contract for your contractor to cut your roof in the way that TASB was thinking, and would make it really high probability that those roofs would fail prematurely based on what they would be tying into. So we explained all this to TASB again, June, July 2022, and it wasn't till February of 2023 that they just haphazardly on a phone call say, oh yeah, by the way, we finally agree with you, your parapet walls are damaged. So the good news is it's ensuing, and they're working through the file under their own merits. The problem is you know, the roofs are supposed to be replaced during this off cycle, and we're running up on some statute of limitation times with the policy. You know, back in November, I made it very clear to TASB that the way that they estimated the software they used, they didn't use it correctly. They missed a bunch of provisions that you guys would need to make sure that overall you had enough components to do the roof correctly, but also there were no general conditions for safety. They didn't give dumpsters. They didn't give supervision. They didn't give any OSHA provisions. These are things that I always get when I negotiate an insurance claim. They gave no considerations for that. Once I made a YouTube video, I sent them all the exhibits outlining very simply, you know, the limitations of their position, and they responded back with an email saying, okay, we hear what you're saying. We're going to change the game, and we're going to change our provision. Now we're going to bring in a contractor to estimate. Keep in mind, the school had already put out to several TIPS approved contractors several months prior to that to get estimates from you know, these contractors to give that, and they said no, we're going to use the software pricing. Then when I pointed out the limitations of the software pricing, they want to go back to, you know, the contractor's pricing. So they brought in Cavalry Construction. Mr. Hopper and I met with the owner of Cavalry Construction in about November, December of 2022. He assured us that it would take less than 2 to 3 weeks for him to give us a full comprehensive report and estimate of damages. To this day, we still don't have that comprehensive report. I then went out to other various approved TIPS contractors because we still had the metal roofing and the slope, basically the steep slope roofing elements to estimate. And I gave them very simple orders. I said, here's a map of the property. Here's the buildings that are within the fund's purview. Send your guys out there, evaluate, find the damage as you would see it, and then estimate it as you would see it. I didn't give them a hail picture. I didn't give them a hail report. I didn't tell them which buildings we had found hail damage on. I wanted the independent contractors to go out and find the damage that they thought existed, essentially as a confirmation bias for us. Basically, it's a blind study to say, hey, what do you guys see out there? And they came back, they estimated they're within 10% of each other in their estimate. Those estimates have been given to Mr. Hopper. In addition to that, TASB hired EFI Global, their engineer, to kind of evaluate the samples that we pulled out of the roof. I then went through former cases and any sort of documentation I could find on the internet to find consultants that TASB has used in the past. I found a consultant and I said, hey, listen, I just want an honest evaluation, just like you would give to TASB. Instead of working for TASB, you're going to work for Venus ISD. Go out there, evaluate the roofs, give me a report back that's exactly what you would give TASB if TASB hires you. This guy also works for EFI Global, and he's given us a comprehensive report, just like he would do for TASB. And just so you know, TASB has used Mr. Critch in legal and expert capacity, and Mr. Critch has come back and confirmed our suspicions that, again, the roofs are damaged, the metal roofs are damaged, the burr roofs are damaged, they're holding moisture. Again, all that confirmation bias that we are looking for to come up with an empirical position. This is a document we recently got. You can see from EMA the base bid for the damages. These are the rooftop units, encompass about $3.5 million. The bulk of the depreciation that TASB was not going to release in May of 2022 came from the rooftop units. Essentially, they were going to hold, $2 million, $2.5 million back from the rooftop unit phase, requiring the school to come up with the extra $2.5 million. They've given me an alternative bid here to replace the other units due to age condition. I didn't ask for this, but this kind of goes in alignment with what I've been telling TASB. All the components, the roofing and the rooftop units, are past their service life. Any contractor that wants to perform a repair in a workmanship and workmanlike manner is going to have a very difficult time removing and replacing the same units that are on your school. And so, again, non-provoked, they gave me this secondary bid here for the rooftop units, and they're basically saying that to replace all the units on the school, there's roughly another $600,000. And you can see that the base units at the top, that's what they are covering, and then the 31 units on the bottom, they haven't determined that there was enough hail damage. I'm still evaluating those units. They give me documentation. I've asked for it multiple times. I said, okay, great. I know which units you're covering, or the number of units you're covering, but I need to know specifically which units those are. Like, I want to know which 31 they're not covering. And again, I've asked them for a year to give that to me, and I still don't have that information. Is there another file? Okay. So this is the rooftop unit kind of breakdown, and so we can go down a couple pages and just land up on a building. That one's fine there. Okay, so this is basically all the rooftop units on the building, and again, a bulk of these units have already been agreed to be replaced, and you can kind of see the perimeter of this building here. So what they are now agreeing to me is that essentially 18 inches all the way around that perimeter of that building, they're going to replace it, and all the curbs around the majority of those units, they're going to replace. So you get to a point, once you start getting through a bulk of those rooftop units and that whole perimeter, there isn't a whole lot of roof left, And again, based on the age, condition, and obsolescence of, these roofs and these units, is it reasonable to just replace the whole roof? And then the answer is absolutely yes, in my opinion. Scroll down to page 13, if you will.
Just replacing the perimeter like that, and then, of course, around the yards, that's going to create more seams anyway, isn't it?
It is. And also, what you got to think about is when we do roofing, we have order of operations at our disposal. And so they do the parapets, and then they do their field, putting, the material in the right shingling essentially so that the water flows off and we don't have the risk of water getting up underneath our field. And so when we replace the parapets out of the order of operations, it's very difficult to time the shingling correctly. So that's a limitation that we are going to have to see. Is it 13? This is not the one. Is that what's that say? Okay, can you go to 10? Maybe it's 10 to 13. Yeah. Okay, and then to the top corner of that, right there. So if you look in the top far right corner, you're basically going to see how this engineer has designed the parapets. I think I have a pointer here. Yeah, let's see. Maybe. Okay, so the top right, there's a parapet there. So the engineer is calling for a 12-inch curb. You currently probably have roughly 6 inches of curb. The bids that we just got 2 days ago, Mr. Hopper from Tri-Lam, they called for an 8-inch curb. So tonight I called Tri-Lam and I gave them this document and I said, hey, make sure you know that your bid really has to include a 12-inch curb with a can and a counter flash. Substantially different than just raising up the curb. But the other thing to point out is all that roof has got to be replaced, and very similar to the parapet, we're going to have a kind of a shingling issue. We're not going to be in time again. And I know you've heard me say in multiple meetings, like, these rooftop units are a problem. How are we going to replace these without replacing the roof around it? These areas of your roofs now are really high propensity for leaks as they are. They break down much sooner than the rest of your field. So replacing the magnitude of rooftop units, changing the curbs, like the engineer has designed, is going to lead to a lot of issues. And so as we've ensued this conversation with TASB, we haven't been met with the most responsive or the most forward opinions of the fact. And I think Mr. Hopper's, and he rightly so, has gotten concerned with the process. And so last week or 2 weeks ago, I was up here. We were doing some engineering testing on the roof systems. I brought an attorney. Mr. Hopper kind of asked if what are the options moving forward? Where do we go from here? How do we figure out if at the end of the day, and let me just put it to you bluntly, if you look at the estimates from the contractors, including your rooftop unit contractors, the bids are totaling roughly $15 million. Currently, the insurance companies offered $4.3 million. Now, likely with the new information that they released to us in February, that number is going to come up substantially, but likely is not going to be fully comprehensive of what we need. And so Mr. Hopper's asked me to review the policy and figure out what our options are moving forward. And there's a very, very strong likelihood that we're going to have legal support help us if TASB doesn't participate correctly. I've asked Mr. Jones here to come, and if there's any questions that you guys have for him or for us as far as this claim ensues, we're going to get to a point very quickly that, I've run out of runways to negotiate with these guys. So anybody have any questions for me or Mr. Jones?
So real quick, obviously it's been, we met before spring break, and these guys came out here and walked on roofs. Yeah. Have they gotten any? Have we heard anything back from them as far as what they've seen from this last inspection that they did?
No, sir. So the TASB brought out some consultants, and those consultants brought out some roofers to do the repairs. I spoke with the roofers while we were on the roof, and I said, would you even be interested in this job if it was a repair? Like, how could you, as a contractor, tell me how you would do these repairs? And he says, I don't think I could do these repairs. And I spoke to him tonight, and I said, I'm going up to the school board. Is there anything you think would be relevant? And he says, they're thinking about doing the parapet 18 inches out. And I said, well, tell me how your contract would be structured. And he says, well, I couldn't warranty it. I said, I don't think that the school can accept a hold harmless provision. I think you guys can give hold harmless, but I don't think you can get hold harmless. And, that's kind of what you'd be after if that's the provision that they, ensue with. And so hearing him talk, it sounds like that's what we're going to get in the coming weeks is a parapet wall, splice in.
So should the board decide to pursue this on a litigation, then we would make the award cover then all legal fees as well?
Yeah, so why don't I bring up Mr. Jones and let him introduce himself, and let's talk about really quick who TASB is. It's not a typical insurance company. There's the fund operates a little differently than what you would think. Like they don't operate like Allstate or State Farm. And so let Mr. Jones talk about that. He's done some research for us. He's looked at case law. He's kind of seen how things have ensued. And so if you don't mind, I'd let him to answer these questions, Mr. Jones.
Good evening. My name is Bill Jones. I'm the managing partner out of Houston from a law firm. Our name is Green, Klein, Wood & Jones. Our law firm focuses almost exclusively on handling property damage claims for property owners, mostly on insurance claims. Occasionally we get involved in these public risk plans. I've just got one finishing up over Nolan County for the county hospital. But we are... our tagline is we sue insurance companies. I mean, that's really exclusively what we do is litigation over disputed property damage claims. Once they, really I like to get involved, our firm likes to get involved once there's a full and complete impasse. You're in good hands with Mr. Cooper. When you utilize the services of a public adjuster, you want to get to a point where you've gotten all the money your insurer or your risk pool, your risk plan is willing to give you, and then you have to make a decision. At that point, it's, in my view, give up and go home or find a lawyer. Our law firm, we work on a contingency fee basis, which means we don't charge anything unless we get a recovery. The self-insured plans that the TASB fund is part of is a little bit of a unique creature. It is not traditional insurance. It is a governmental entity that is set up, which means just like schools and counties and police departments, it has governmental immunity unless there's been a specific waiver of the governmental immunity. There has been a waiver of governmental immunity to sue for pursue breach of contract claims. If the contract was entered into under the Texas Government Code after 2009, you can potentially receive attorney's fees if you prevail on that breach of contract claim. The various TASB agreements, there's different ones with different terms. I've seen some just freely available because it's public information where the prevailing party gets attorney's fees. I've seen some where, if the plan, if you guys entered into the interlocal agreement, basically what you do is you sign an interlocal agreement / participation agreement that sort of makes you part of the co-op or the risk pool. If that agreement was entered into prior to 2009, this entity and lawyers that represent this entity are the same lawyers in my other case, so you can't get attorney's fees prior to 2009. So to me, one of the things that raises is you really do want to get to a point where you either just cannot wait anymore for action, even if a final decision has not been made by the fund, or go ahead and let Ron take you as far as he possibly can. And when they say we're not paying any more money, at that point you in my view, there's really nothing to lose, because once your plan has said we're not going to pay you any more money, you have a choice to figure out how to fund it yourself, or figure out or pursue litigation. Again, we work on a contingent basis, so we don't charge hourly rates. You wouldn't have to put room in the budget for our services. But obviously, if we cannot recover over and above the repair cost, that does put a dent. What our fees would be at the end of the claim could put a dent in what you have to recover. So I can't stand here definitively and say we can recover your attorney's fees. We cannot recover your attorney's fees, because there's still some sort of legal research to be done on that. I would need all of the documents that govern the TASB fund agreement, but it's certainly the potential's out there. What I can say definitively is, if you know anything about insurance law in Texas and you've heard of things like bad faith or prompt payment of claims penalties, those things do not apply to this plan. They don't apply. It's not a traditional insurance company. Now, the good news, for whatever it's worth at this point, is you've probably paid less money to participate in the risk pool than you would have paid buying private insurance for many, many years. But, you know, you are where you are today. So, Ron just asked us to kind of step in and look around a little bit. This is what we do. If you need help, we're happy to help and answer questions. You know, so that's the introduction and my overview.
I have just one question. If we choose to pursue litigation, how long do we anticipate that taking? Because if we're already waiting as much as we've waited and then we still don't get the answer and then we pursue litigation, how much more time do we project that's going to take?
You know, I've had a long time. The short answer is, and that's for a couple reasons. First of all, when you do go through the claims process with the skilled, educated public adjuster like Ron, I don't want his head to get too big, but when you have an advocate like Ron in your corner, he's going to push them as far as when they want to go. Me showing up, you know, a week later, my firm showing up a week later, they don't go, oh no, it's a lawyer. You know, they've already done their analysis. It becomes a knockdown, drag out litigation fight. So that's another reason, quite frankly, where I always tell people, you know, it's against my best interest. I love to show up early and get easy money, but I always tell folks, potential clients, you know, get to the end of your rope, get to where you have an actual impasse. So, stranger things have happened, but the difference is the people Ron's working with making decisions at the risk pool are the same people that would continue to make those decisions if the district decides to file a lawsuit against them. And so you do end up going through a fairly extensive litigation process. So that again, you want to try to get what you can through
So
Ron's efforts.
I have a question. So you said that the clock reset. So we have 365 days. When did the clock reset for the new timeline to have it completed?
Yeah, so what I did is I said, listen, this process is going to take some time. We're not going to start the clock until we get through the full process. Likely is that full process is either through adjustment or litigation. I just don't think it's, and David Snyder, the TASB rep, he's been pretty easygoing about that. And, you know, he's been sued a bunch, so he's familiar with the process. What I will tell you is, you know, hiring the same consultant that they hire in this matter, you know, and telling us that, you know, the roofs are damaged, it will help us. You know, we stack kind of these negotiation chips on our side in hopes that maybe, you know, we do hire a firm like Mr. Jones's and we go to mediation and we sit down and we mediate the loss. You know, these are things that I'm very favorable of before we get into heavy litigation, and I have had a lot of success, you know, in mediation prior to. As Mr. Jones said, the fund and their paper operates a lot different than traditional insurance. There's probably an opportunity for what's called alternative dispute resolution. However, I think it reads like, you know, they get to pick all the people, you know, so is it, you know, in our best interest to maybe pursue that? I would say no.
How much rope do we have left?
You know, that's a great question. The weather hasn't helped us in the last few weeks. You know, the guys have tried to get out here from TASB to do some moisture mapping of the roofs. I think the buildings, like the high school, I think that they have moisture map. They say it's fully wet. So, you know, things like that are looking, you know, in our favor, honestly. You know, it comes down to, you know, getting the contractor selected, right? And just so you know, when they went through the process, you guys have a contractor called Tri-Lam that's been maintaining your roofs for lots of years. They were actually the lowest bidder, so all things kind of worked out well. And so I would encourage you to reach out to that company and make sure that you are on the slate for, you know, June roofing. I would, you know, I'll reach out to EMA and I'll make sure that they have ordered all their rooftop units right? Even if they got to bill us for
They're good to go.
warehouse, fees, things like that. I want to make sure they have them all, and we can kind of mobilize pretty quickly because this thing can break, and then we can go. But what I'm hearing is the parapet walls I'm not enjoying. So I would say we probably give them, the next 30 days, and we need to kind of make a big decision.
Okay, so we'll,
Basically, their position is that the curbs that the air conditioners are sitting on and 18 inches around, and the parapet wall and 18 inches around are damaged, but the area in between is not damaged.
Essentially.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And you touched on the one thing that I was really curious about. Even if you got somebody to repair, that they may not warranty that work for future failure because it's only doing 18 inches and not the.
Your roofs are 30 years old.
So.
I would be very, very, very leery of a contractor that would say they would warranty that.
Right.
this is a huge investment for us. I mean, these buildings have to last us a long time. And so, I will contact Tri-Lam and make sure that they're ready to roll. But like you said, the clock's ticking at this point.
The other thing I'd like to maybe mention is a lot of your roofs have like a B deck, pan deck, metal roof to them. To the extent that they are staying water saturated for how long, oxidation ensues, and that decking does, deteriorate rather quickly once oxidation sets in. So we may, be seeing further ensuing damages just as a result of the roof saturation. So these are just things that I'd like to consider, and that may change our roof schedule, because if they do have to replace, substantial amounts of roof decking before they put their new roof on, these are just alternatives to the timeline that we need to be considerate of.
So worst case scenario, there's no quick resolution, and we may have to go to litigation, or if that's what the board decides to do, is go to litigation. This is not going to get done this summer, obviously.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any two ways around it. Those roofs, probably need replaced based on the damage and their age, and it may be a long process. I'm here for the whole process, not just the adjustment. I will participate in the extra endings also. But I think it's imperative that we look long and hard at all the options, and we're talking about a lot of money.
Okay, one question, Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir.
You said you worked on a contingency. What percentage of the money that we might get is the contingency? 10%, 50%, whatever?
Typically, if there's an opportunity for us to resolve a claim pre-suit, our firm will do a stair-step fee at 10% pre-litigation. These facts and circumstances, to be blunt, probably wouldn't be much of an opportunity for a pre-suit resolution. After that, our normal fee, if you come into us off the street, it's a 40% contingency fee, but we recognize that you have Mr. Cooper and his services, and he's really, not just him individually, but we work with other public adjusters. They advance the ball. So our typical fee is 30% of the gross recovery. This is a unique situation. It's a very large loss. It has limitations on whether or not attorney's fees can be recovered by statute. Because it's a large loss, potentially very complicated case, sometimes I feel like 30% may be a little light. Other times, if it gets a little simpler or attorney's fees are recoverable, we are flexible on a lower contingent fee, but it really just depends on the facts and circumstances. But the book rate is typically 30%. Now, what I would typically say is try not to worry about that too much, because we try to resolve your claim and get the attorney's fees paid on top of it. That way we're netting you in your pocket what you really need to fix the problem that you have. And, that's when you're dealing with a normal insurance company and potential bad faith and interest penalties and those things. So it's a little bit different discussion with a claim like this. So the answer to your question is typically 30%, but should you need to engage a lawyer and you want to talk with our firm in more detail, we're a small boutique litigation firm. We work with our clients to make sure we can put in a fee arrangement that works best for everybody. Obviously, we can't work for free. We take on the risk with you guys. We front all the case expenses. And at the same time, you have your very real financial issues that you need to deal with. So,
Last thing I'll say, Ron, you've been working with these guys a lot, and the behavior, and you do this clearly more than I do, but the behavior that we're seeing from TASB Risk is a whole lot of foot dragging.
Yeah.
A whole lot of time wasting. And that's why we are where we are at this point. That would indicate to me that they're really not wanting to resolve this thing.
I would say that's very accurate. I mean, as you know, Mr. Hopper, they've asked us for something, we immediately get it to it. Your staff has been impeccable getting us maintenance records, all documentation that we've ever needed, we've gotten very quickly to them. Sometimes they don't even respond to us that they've gotten it, and then, so it's just difficult to interact with them. As Mr. Jones laid out, they kind of operate in a different vacuum than regular, statutory law for insurance. And I think that gives them some leeway on how they respond. It's not easy. This isn't an easy file, that's for sure. And you guys, we're doing a lot better than what we should. Let's say that.
So next steps then, like I said, I'll contact Trilem and make sure that they're ready just in case.
Yeah.
And
what I would also say is maybe it might be an opportunity if they do give us some resources. Maybe we pick a school, to do this year. Maybe we take some whatever we do have, and do that. Maybe we take one of the buildings that is either the most water saturated or that has the most rooftop units on it, and we roof it, and then just kind of see how that goes, and then let them evaluate and see kind of what the process looks like, what it costs, what a real phase of construction is, and let them see what's actually incurred. So that's an option that I would, like to see maybe evaluated.
we can talk more about this next month, I guess.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to item number 10, presentation of student growth performance updates. Dr. Morgan?
Hello. Just briefly, I wanted to share just some projections that we have for where our students are right now. So these are projections based on the middle of year MAP growth assessment on how they might do on the STAR test. So again, these are projections. These are not this is not data that is set in stone, but this is where our students are right now. So for reading, you can see the yellow bar is if students were to take the STAR test right now, this is likely what their scores would be. So that the most of the yellow is above 60% approaching, which is good. That is definitely on the incline from where we have been since COVID. The yellow dots that you see represent our district goals. So that's 3rd grade, 6th grade, and 9th grade. And so 3rd grade and 6th grade reading, we're just running shy of our target for a number of students who will meet the grade level expectation. 9th grade reading seems to be on target. That one is a little bit harder to pin down, but right now it looks like that number of 9th grade students is on target. If you scroll down, we can look at the graph for math. Same colors, same representations. So again, we definitely want to see that yellow bar above the 60% line in each grade level. That is the percentage of students who are likely to approach the passing standard, which is what we call passing. And then again, the yellow dots are for, are we on track to meet our district set goal of meeting grade level expectations in 3rd grade and 6th grade. So 3rd grade, we are on track to meet that goal, which is fantastic. 6th grade, we're a bit short of it, and so that is definitely a grade level that we have been, since the 2nd semester started, paying extra attention to. Definitely made some shifts in delivery of instruction and the support of those teachers, and so our our student performance can definitely increase from there. We don't have a projection for ninth grade because MAP does not have a correlation study linking the MAP growth test to the algebra EOC. Based on the number of students who were in the 60th percentile or above, the 40th percentile or above, which is about grade level, there is a good number of students projected to pass the algebra test. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to item number 11, presentation of blended learning classroom.
Good evening. My name is Warren Hudson. I'm the Instructional Technology Coordinator for the district, and I'm also the Blended Learning Project Manager. Do you mind scrolling down a little bit? There we go. So back in 2020, the district received a $300,000 grant from the Charles Butt Foundation, thanks to the hard work of Mr. Hopper, Ms. Buck, Dr. Morgan, and a slew of other people. And in last school year, our blended learning journey kind of began in earnest. Scroll down a little bit. In general, blended learning is about individualizing instruction for students, giving students some choice so that they can be more engaged and grow more. So in the classrooms, it looks like students working in small groups, doing an online self-paced program, as well as small group individualized instruction with a teacher. And if I could foot stomp that one, I would all day long, because at its core, it's allowing the teacher to do the things that only a teacher can do. And so our teachers are kind of our superpower. And so the goal is to free them up to allow them to make the biggest impact in the ways that only they can. In other classrooms, you'll also see some choice menu activities where students are able to choose the order that they do their assignments in, or sometimes choose which assignments to do and which assignments not to do. The end result that we're beginning to see and we're very excited about is growth. And so everybody has a blue and gold handout in front of you. Very excited about the data. And to give you an idea, the top graph is from Lexia. That's an online literacy program, which is the online component for the blended learning classrooms in 6 through 12 English and reading. And so what you'll see on there is immense growth in the number of, or the percentage of students who are working on 6th through 8th grade skills. And it may seem odd to you that the graph goes all the way to 9th and 10th grade. You may think, well, why are those kids working in 6th through 8th grade skills? Part of why we got this grant is at the time when we applied, the majority of our students in 6th grade through 9th grade were reading at least one grade level behind. And so that was our area of biggest need, and so we focused on that with our blended learning efforts.
And if I could, Warren, and when you hear us talk about blended learning and the people coming and taking a look at what we're doing here with our kids, we looked at this and said, we're going to throw the skunk on the table. Grades 6 through 9, we're not on grade level with our reading. And so we have to attack this. And so that's what this has been all about. And so when they see the results of this, are we where we want to be? No. But we're growing immensely. And that is why the other school districts are coming in, and Holdsworth Center is coming in, taking a look and saying, wow, this is great work. So good work to the whole team.
Yeah. And the yellow sections of that, we had a good number of students who, when they began using Lexia, they were working on kindergarten through 2nd grade skills. It doesn't mean that was their reading level. It means that they had gaps in their ability to read on skills that were originally taught in kindergarten through 2nd grade level. And so as students advance in their public education with gaps from kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade, they don't know, those secondary teachers are not suited to fill those gaps. Your high school English teacher does not know how to teach fundamental reading skills. They're not supposed to. But because of blended learning, those gaps are getting filled. And if you take a look at the blue and green graph on the bottom of that, that's some MAP data comparing this year's middle of year MAP scores to last year's for our middle school English and reading kids. And I want to draw your attention to that overall positive trend line. The data isn't perfect in every grade level, but on the whole, we're moving in the right direction. And that's because the fundamental gaps are being filled. And so you have to you have to fill in the gaps before we can really start to see the growth that we want to see in MAP, in STAR, and the SAT, ACT, things like that. Ms. Griffin, go back to the presentation.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make sure I'm reading this right. So on the bottom part, these sixth graders are now seventh graders. Is that correct?
Yes, and so all of this is on looking at the same kids.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am. So, in short, the hard work of our teachers and principals are paying off. I can't speak highly enough about the hard work and dedication that Ms. Buck and Mr. Camacho have put into blended learning to make it a priority for their teachers on their campus. And because of that, that means their teachers are also putting in a lot of hard work. This involves teachers changing their practices. It is difficult to get adults to do different things when they've been doing those same things for their entire careers. And so we're asking, the principals are asking their teachers to do some different things to benefit their students. And they've taken them at their word, and they're doing it, and we're starting to see results, so we're really excited about it. Ms. Crew, would you mind going back to the other one? Oh, there we go. So next year, Ms. Buck and Mr. Camacho have said that they want blended learning to go campus-wide at high school and middle school. And so we will be supporting really the entire campuses to help them see some of the success that right now is being seen in English and reading. Ms. Buck has pushed the pedal a little bit more to the floor, and middle school math teachers are also beginning to dip their toes in and make some changes. And in the month and a half that she has really baptized them by fire in blended learning, we're seeing amazing things happen in classrooms. Mr. Hopper has referenced being recognized by the Charles Butt Foundation. We had a showcase where outsiders come in and just take a look and see what's going on in our classrooms. They were flabbergasted. It was a fantastic experience, and it's kind of unprecedented in our grant cohort. But they want to come back again on April 11th and do another showcase, because they said, we know other people who need to come and see what y'all are doing here, and we're going to bring them. So on that note, you were invited. April 11th from 8:30 to 11 at the high school library. We will take you around, show you the classrooms, talk to you about all the great things your teachers are doing, and I will send out an email to invite you to that. So just want to put that on your radar.
So this is kind of the inglorious part of it. I mean, this is kind of where the gut wrenching happens. There's not a lot of flash and dash. I mean, it's just in there. The teachers are hitting the grind with the students, and so that's why you don't see it, out there so much. But and it's raising our kids up where they need to be. So again, point being made, you're not going to see it up there on a lot of banners and those kinds of things necessarily. But when Charles Butt Foundation comes in and says, "Holy cow, look at this," it's nice that our teachers get that recognition.
It is. And the teacher in the picture is Miss McCormick, Venus Middle School's Teacher of the Month for this month, doing what only she can do in her classroom, which is lead instruction at the small group table. Great stuff.
Warren, quick question.
Yes, sir.
I understand how this is impacting those students on that need help on the lower end. What impact does this have on the students that are on the upper end, the gifted, talented, and those above the 50% level?
Awesome question. It doesn't. The goal is to not let any student off the hook. And so a large component is teachers are having one-on-one meetings with every student that they have about what their data looks like. And so in the same way that Dr. Morgan just showed you the collective MAP data, every student in these classrooms is having a one-on-one conference with their teacher about what their data looks like, and making goals, setting goals, identifying action steps. And so whether that student is 4 years behind in the content or 2 years ahead, the teacher's goal is for every student to grow. And so because the students are being grouped by their data, different groups of kids are receiving different instruction and activities to try and push the kids who are already ahead, and to try and grow the kids that are working on filling gaps. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go to item number 12, presentation of scheduled summer school for 2022-2023.
Yes, we met as an administrative team because before we can blink an eye, summer's going to be here. And so our summer school for this next school year, or this next summer after this school year, will look very similar to what it has been in the past. Because our bilingual ESL students require a specific number of minutes, Ms. Roden? 120 hours. So they will start actually the Tuesday after Memorial Day, and their day will be from 8 to 3:30. The remainder of the campuses and the remainder of the students that receive remediation will start on the 5th through the 22nd. And just like last year, we will feed students. They'll come in off the bus, they'll go in the cafeterias. We're going to feed at the primary and the middle school. And those students, the elementary students, will eat with the primary, and then they'll load them on the bus, take them to the elementary school. And the way the system has been designed, the littles will eat a little bit before the lunch period because they have to go the remainder of the day. And then those students that are elementary will be bused back to primary. They'll get 8 to 12 instruction, and then get to eat lunch. And at 12:30, the wheels on the bus go round and round and take them home. And same thing with the high school and the middle school. That time framing will be the same. Any questions?
Did you say it was 8 to 3:30?
No, the bilingual ESL students, because of the number of 120 hours, it's just math equation. That's how much time how many days they got to spend to receive that mandated number of hours of instruction.
And so will all that take place on the primary campus?
Yes.
We will need to coordinate with those who want to put rooftop units on some of these buildings too. So stay tuned as far as which buildings.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Okay, we can go to item number 13, consent agenda. And if nobody wants to pull anything out of the consent agenda or make a motion, I'm open.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda from last month.
I got a motion by Amber and a second by Greg. All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, going to item number 15, consider approval of amended district of innovation plan.
Yes, one of the things that we have to amend, and that's based on the adoption of the 4-day work week, is the changes in the contractual language of teacher obligation. The state TEA education codes is 187 contractual days. Our initial innovation plan was to allow up to 5 days to adjust the calendar, so we could have gone down to a 182 day. But due to the fact that we're now under the 4-day program, the verbiage is changed into months. It will be a 10-month contract. The days that they are required to work will be set at the campus due to the school calendar, and the same goes all the way through. But we'll have to make that amendment, and I'll have to file it with Commissioner Morath because of the changes in the school calendar. Any questions on that?
No, I mean, knew that was coming.
Yep. And that's the thing, the process that we have to go through to amend our DOI is it has to be board approved, and then I'll submit that to the commissioner, and it'll be filed.
Okay. All right. Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I got a motion by Joe,
I'll second.
a second by Amber. All in favor? Motion carries. All right, going to item number 16, consider approval of general fund budget amendment. Mr. Nasworth?
This amendment is part of our bilingual allotment. Due to the fact that we had to submit a bilingual exception or an ESL waiver this year, the state requires us to spend 10% of our bilingual allotment on professional development. So this is taking, after speaking with Mrs. Roden, this is taking funds that are in her, currently they're placed in her supply accounts to purchase supplies, and it's shifting it from function 11 into function 13 for professional development, since that's a required thing that we have to do since we filed the waivers.
Okay.
Motion that we transfer the funds as presented.
Got a motion by Greg. Second by Kirby. All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, on to item number 17. Yeah, we'll skip that. It's like,
No, sir.
Consider approval of food service budget amendment.
And this budget amendment is, after speaking with Tina, she has gone through and looked at her estimated revenues. When she initially made her budget, she usually, does that kind of on the lower side just to make sure that she's going to receive the amount of money that she thinks that she's going to. She's gone through and looked at her revenue that she's received over the past several months and kind of come up with some new estimates. And this is probably still a lowball number. She'll probably receive more than the $194,000. But since we know that we're going to receive that, we would like to go ahead and amend her budget. The revenue goes up, therefore her expenditures go up. So these are funds that we will receive. And normally she does this usually April or May. But she's a little bit ahead of the game this time and knows that that money is coming. So we just need to make that adjustment so that we can adjust that up in both areas.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the food service budget.
Okay, I got a motion by Tasha
I'll second.
and a second by Amber. All in favor? Motion passes. All right, on to item number 18. Consider approval of purchase of 25 student laptops for the 2023-2024 P-TECH Cybersecurity course.
One of the things that we have to provide in moving forward with our P-TECH plan is for the cybersecurity, a normal student Chromebook is not sufficient to run the programs. So we're going to be able to use T-class funds and purchase these that will sustain us for many years to come. So just because of the expenditure amounts, I have to have board approval to make that purchase.
What funds did you say?
T-class, P-TECH. It's a grant fund.
It's so we already have the grant, or we will
Yes.
get the grant
No.
after we purchase?
We already have the funds available through the T-class grant. And so this will just be an expenditure out of that grant fund.
It's just over the threshold.
Yeah.
That requires board approval.
Because it went over the 25,000.
25,000, yeah. Okay. Did somebody make a motion?
No, I just had a question, but I'll make a motion. to
Okay.
approve.
I couldn't remember if you had a motion.
No,
I was
but
like-
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I got a motion by Tasha,
25 cents.
I'll second it.
second by Greg. All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, we're gonna go to executive session at 9:26 for 551-074.
You don't need principals, do you?
No. Okay, we're gonna reconvene from executive session at 10:25. And, so going to item, well, we don't need to do anything for 21. So nothing on 21, correct? That's.
Yes, sir.
And going to item number 22, consider approval administrative professional, Venus ISD Police Clerical Paraprofessional Auxiliary and Technology 2023-2024 pay scales.
All
That was
right.
a lot.
What did you say?
I said that was a lot.
Yes. All right. Good evening. So, standing before you guys once again to share the recommendations for the professional salary schedule for 23-24, technology, auxiliary, and clerical paraprofessional. So, with looking first at the technology pay scale, the forms that you have been provided simply shows on the left-hand side the 22-23 4-day work week, and then on the right-hand side, it shows the 22-23 5-day work week. The one thing that I want to point out for the technology pay, everything stayed the same except for the days that those employees will be working, which is 202. We're focusing on two things with all of these salary schedules. We're focusing on retention, and then we're focusing on recruiting. Retention, our current employees that are in these positions, they will work less days, but will receive the same pay. And we will just adjust the hourly and the daily rate. And I hear clapping over there. In the event, and we are not planning to lose any of our current employees, but in the event we are recruiting new people in these positions, the 4-day work week will be used as a recruitment strategy for individuals. So we're moving on to the, yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank you. 2023. And I'm looking at the professional one now. We did change it on that one. So if we move on to the administrative professional salary schedule, again, the min and max of all of those remain the same. And then we just changed the days that will be worked. And I know that's a little small, but hopefully you received the one in front of you. Okay. Auxiliary. Some things to note on the auxiliary for the 23-24 4-day work week. We looked at transportation. Our flat rate for our bus drivers will be $54.40. That's for new individuals coming in. And again, our current bus drivers, if you're driving for us, we're just going to adjust that hourly rate for you to ensure that you're not losing any of your pay. All right? And so for the pay grades 1 through 6, again, it was mainly the days that those individuals are going to be working. And we made the decision to have our maintenance workers also work a 4-day work week as opposed to.
The other question I have.
Yes, ma'am.
Bus monitor, I see that it's flipped on this one. Will they both say 2023, the 5-day versus the 4-day?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not sure which one we're at.
So don't worry, the 5-day, the 5-day, we're no longer worrying about that one because that was before we made the decision to go to 4 days. So we're only looking at the 4-day work week now. So it'll be $54.50, the left, I'm sorry.
And so for the bus monitor, were they always hourly?
Yes, ma'am.
And did that change at all? I don't see the comparison from what this year to next year is.
Yes, it did. Go ahead, Stephen.
And the difference on this with the current scale, that 21 to 33, that's a daily rate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was not what
Mhm.
per daily and
route
hourly.
rate. That one's per route, and this one just breaks it down into hourly.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're saying per route versus per hour, do they lose money? Because if we're saying, let's say one route only takes an hour, but another route takes 2 hours, so the person, let's say
They get a 2-hour minimum. Yes, ma'am. So, and I can, and if you wanted me to, me to change that to where it's just a 2-hour minimum, I can do it that way as well. But it's just.
I just didn't know. I was just making sure that, like, we
Yes, ma'am. Yes. 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 Okay. And then the clerical paraprofessional pay scale, the same thing there. The hourly, the daily rates and the hourly rates will be adjusted to ensure that our returning employees will not receive any money. They will just work less days than they have before. Any questions? Yes, ma'am. That's what we wanted to go back and propose. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Now, will maintenance always be off on Friday, or will they, if there's jobs that they need to be doing when nobody's here?
Mm-hmm.
Float?
And so, Mr. Hopper, I don't know if you want to address this. We did sit down with our maintenance director, and we talked about those things exactly, Mr. Russell, that if we needed to work Tuesday through Friday, that we can make those adjustments, and that we talked to our people to ensure that they were willing to do that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that makes, it's gonna be very difficult to have any one group of employees, 5 days when the rest of them are cool.
Mm-hmm.
And maintain the same kind of salary. I mean, that's just, there's no way.
But Ronnie can schedule it as needed.
Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, sir. And we do something similar. We've been doing it now for about 3 years here at in the summertime. You know, we work 4-10s, and so I just told him, I said, look, we've got people come.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a motion by Tasha. I'll second it.
Good job.
Second by Chad. All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, going to item number 23, reports.
I don't have anything.
You don't have anything? Okay. You have anything?
Yes, sir.
All right.
You should have this document. This is what our administrative group and our calendar folks came together based off of feedback, our surveys, and questions from the board. To keep things consistent and to meet our minutes level, we're looking at a 7:40 to a 3:55 day, which is basically the same start as what we've been doing all along. So the starting bell will ring at 7:40, the day will begin. We'll release at 3:55. At the point that we need remediation after school, and this was a big question, and I know some of you had the question about running buses and those sorts of things. One of the things that we've done over the past several years in the spring and some in the fall is to have after-school tutorials for those students that need extra help. And in that case, we run a second bus route. So this will eliminate the transportation issue that come to mind. Just understand that 4 to 4:30 was just an initial time frame. We may have to adjust it a little bit as far as start and end times and looking at what our bus routes really run. So it could be at 4:15 to 4:45, but those kids will still get their transportation home.
What all age groups does Bulldog Academy impact?
What?
What all age groups does Bulldog Academy impact? Remediation, Bulldog Academy, 4 to 4:30,
Mhm.
all campuses?
Hmm?
Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't know
Well,
if we're just targeting just,
not the primary,
okay.
but something that we've done in the past, gearing, as we see students that need extra help with different subject matter, They put together a list of students that need to stay after school. Now, that's not that we're gonna chase them down and drag them off the bus to come to the building, but we provide the opportunity for them to stay, get extra help, and still have the means to get home after that. Because ultimately, and this is gonna be a timing issue as far as, by the time we let out 355, get buses loaded, get bus routes run, some of the shorter, earlier routes should be back somewhere in that 4:45 to 5 o'clock time frame. As far as the workday schedule, VHS is staying with a 7:15 to 4:15. That's 9 hours, but with a 30-minute duty-free lunch, teachers are only working 8.5 hours. The same thing with all the other campuses, based on their needs as far as who they use and when. The campuses for VMS, VES, and VPS, there'll be like an early crew that comes in for like their morning drop-off, and they'll leave a little bit earlier, and then they'll have the other crew that comes in a little bit later and is there for the after-school pickup. The paras will work an 8-hour day, and that's going to be to determine it based on the need of the campus. So they're same thing. There could be paras that come in a little bit later, stay a little later. Some come in a little earlier, but they will only work. Their day will be 8.5 hours, but it's 8-hour work day with 30 minutes lunch.
So we're cutting them by 8 hours a week? So they're only gonna be working 32 hours?
32 hours for the same amount of money.
Okay.
Well, and that's the thing is, by starting at about the same time as we do currently, it doesn't mess up the morning run. So the buses will run, and then just like they do now, they open the doors at 7:15, let the kids out, they go in and have their breakfast, and then the tardy bell will ring at 7:40. The only difference will be in the afternoon is they'll start releasing at 3:55. Any questions?
Yeah, what are y'all doing? What is your schedule gonna be? For admin? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we'll have people here on Fridays. I mean, we'll have some stuff will be going on Fridays.
Not on campus stuff. The only stuff that'll be going on Fridays is if we've got maintenance working, that sort of thing. Practices, that sort of thing.
But very likely there will be some athletic practice.
Yes. Well, like,
We're gonna have a lot of activities, and that's like Chief Woodrow said, we really haven't talked about it. It's just one of those aspects of it, when you look at things that, stuff happens 7 days a week.
Well, even the longer hours and buses running later, we're gonna have to discuss.
Figure all of that out.
yep. Any other questions? That's all I've got. Well, and that's one of the things that's still open for discussion, in the fact that we've not put this out for prime time just yet as far as what the daily schedule is going to look like. The two secondary campus principals are looking at what the bell schedule and those sorts of things, so there's still a little bit of maneuvering taking place there. But as far as a day-to-day working schedule for students and staff, that's what we've got to get out there to our folks. One thing, and I don't know if they mentioned it, but just in case you're out and about, and I know that nobody works on a Tuesday, but we are having our Ag Day tomorrow. And so in the parking lot over by the stadium, Southwest Dairies, there'll be people from Texas Farm Bureau, the 4-H office. We're supposed to have some of our local farmers in with some of their big equipment. And then the kids will get to, the 5th grade will come over and get to watch the milking of the cow. and then they have different stations set up for them, just the Ag Day.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
I just had, I was just gonna kind of give a short little update on the budget
Absolutely.
process and where we are in that. We've received all of our campus budgets and department budgets in. Those have been, we started entering those into Ascender, and now that the salary schedules are approved, we'll start running simulations to kind of see where that puts us, and then kind of do an administrative review of everything, and hopefully after we get the preliminary values from the CAD in late April, we'll be able to present something that looks similar to a budget. Right now, it's in pieces. So now that we have all those salaries, we can start working on that. So hopefully by May we'll have something a little bit more tangible to present. So
And we had talked about putting together some budget assumptions for next month as well. And by that I mean expenditures for next year that we would propose to the board, you know, to think about, you know, are we going to you know, pave a parking lot or not, and those kinds of things. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this might go to, on the athletic side. One of the things that, and I probably mentioned it to you before, was trying to, in the budget, trying to figure out and get some estimates on replacing the turf on the football field, which is long past its age at this point. So that's something that we've put off, but go ahead.
Well, the last, when we resurfaced the track,
Yeah.
when Hellas came in and resurfaced the track, they put me a projection of a full mill deal to do the track in the stadium at that time, and that was $667,000. So you're talking $500,000 that was 2 years ago.
Right.
So
Do we also include the baseball and softball fields in that as well?
I think, if I may,
Go ahead.
the largest field you will ever turf is a baseball field. It's going to be the most expensive. And so, and I agree with you, we do need to have those fields. The question is, long-term, okay, does the district want to do those? Do you want to make those, you know, some fields you'd want to put elsewhere? So that's just a consideration. You're gonna want to have those fields. I can tell you at some point. But I have talked to Terry recently, and he does have some updated numbers. It is going to be, you know, $500,000 anyway. Anyway, I'll bring those next time too.
There are some grants out there as well, right? Texas Rangers has a grant for baseball fields, I think. There are some grants out there, I know, for fields. Maybe not football, but baseball or softball.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That football field was
Grant
over
writing.
$1 million by itself.
Yes, sir.
And if you say the baseball field is more, if you do baseball and softball, you're probably looking at $2.5 million.
Yeah.
That's probably going to be, yeah.
That's if the football field is still $1 million 10 years later.
And
that was back then. It was just
Yeah.
the cost just to replace the football, just to returf the football
Yeah.
field. It was like 300,000 back then. It was like,
And if you think about it too, you have to look at, then if you're gonna put that money into the softball field, well, either one of them, you know, what sort of a stadium do you have there? Are we ever gonna want a stadium where you can actually charge admission? Maybe, maybe not. But as the school gets bigger, you know, and we have that 2A type of a setup like we do now, which is fine, but ultimately gonna want something where you can enclose.
Right.
And so I think to put that much lipstick on that pig might be, you know, may want to save it.
I ain't never paid for a baseball until I went to Everman,
yeah.
and I got charged $4.
Because they have a complex.
Just you go inside and you sit there.
Okay. So does anybody else have anything else on reports that they want to bring up? Okay. Well, if nothing else on reports, we'll go to item number 24, board request for additional items. Next scheduled board meeting date, regular meeting date is April 17th. And unless we have any other, we don't have anything before that, right? And, no.
I mean, we
I
got a
don't-
whole list of things.
Yeah, those are
Right here,
starting,
look.
yeah, those
Right
are
there.
nothing in April, that's right.
But also, I had two personal deals. One is, we don't have any meetings, but we'll be getting like information coming in, and somehow, I guess, do I just call Butch myself and ask him about
The printouts or the,
copies and stuff?
no,
Yeah, he said he was gonna get printouts. Yeah.
Okay, first
Yeah.
off, I'd already touched base with Butch anyway and said, so he's already prepared to have those. I'm gonna have him have hard copies for everybody.
We can just come
I'm
by
the same
and pick
way.
up packets.
yeah,
I always print these things out.
so,
Helps me
And,
read.
that's the first one, and the second thing was, is I was supposed to get with Miss Groove, and I thought she was supposed to be here, she took off. on
Miss
me.
Cruz right there?
yeah, she's there.
Don't she, okay, she's hiding behind that black screen, I see blackness all over
Yeah.
there. Yeah, I need to come up with a time for Wednesday.
When we talked earlier this evening, I said anytime late morning and on is fine. So anytime after about 10:30 is fine.
Okay, so 10:30?
10:30 is fine.
All right, that'd be great.
I-
Thank you.
I have one thing, and we had mentioned it at our Saturday meeting. Is there a way that I can do like a Zoom call with the P-TECH guy, just to get,
Oh,
I mean, instead of
This-
everybody having to come up and listen to P-TECH again?
with the doctor. with the-
Yeah, I forgot
The
his
doctor,
name.
that came in,
That came from EduNation.
yeah, yeah. Alexander, yes.
Yeah, if you can set up like a Zoom meeting for me at any time where I can
And
just
me.
go in, okay,
Yeah,
yeah, we can
I
do
do
it.
wanna bring them up to,
Just
Yes,
because I just questions.
Because in April, we're gonna bring it to the board.
Right.
You know, too, so, do you, he will make a trip here.
I don't. He doesn't even have to come here. I can do Zoom. We can do Zoom on here. I mean,
I will
I
say-
I can
you
do
tell me
any
when.
Monday. I can really do any days besides the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 25th, 26th, and 27th.
yeah.
She needs the 2 weeks in
So-
the middle.
Yeah, I need the 2
Any
weeks in the
day,
middle or
but-
every
I-
Monday.
Yeah, it'd be great if he's able to
I
work
can
some
do
time in
anytime.
to
I
bring
mean,
them up to date.
No, I can do anytime.
So
Seriously.
what I'll do then is I'll get that out to the whole board, so if you guys wanna jump on
Jump
the
on.
Zoom, I mean, it's probably not a bad idea anyway. And you said any day this week?
I'm good with any day,
Okay, okay.
or even next week. Right?
Like
Pete?
Monday?
Any day. I'm good. It's not the
Except
1st.
for 20 days.
Yeah, I heard about, okay.
I mean, yeah, you got between the 5th and
Okay.
the 20th.
So this week or next week, any time of any day?
Yes.
Gotcha, yes, ma'am. And I'll send that out to everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as I have like 2 days notice, my calendar isn't full up, I can block that time off.
Yes.
Oh, it's,
Okay. No, I'm glad you brought that up. Like I said, I
Yeah,
wanna make
that
sure
was on
y'all,
That was on my to-do also.
And,
get that.
and just, you know, I mean, that is such a big,
Yeah.
that's a big thing for this
Mhm.
district. That is really,
Yeah,
really
that's
big.
why I just want to get caught up to speed because I
Yes,
still
ma'am.
have so many questions.
Yeah.
sure, I
same.
mean, to be fair, I mean, we had lots of meetings, we've gone off-site and this and that, so I mean,
Mhm.
to be fair to you, you should, be brought up, and like I said, he can definitely answer a lot of your questions.
You went to Roscoe, didn't you?
Yeah,
You and Joe went to Roscoe?
yes, sir.
So flew out there and saw what they're doing first time. So yeah, there's been a lot of background.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So we'll do it.
Oh.
Thank you.
okay.
And
Well,
then 10:48.
Yeah, nothing else, we're gonna go to adjournment at 10:48.